of minutes. And recommendation that the minutes of the Select Finance Committee meeting held on December 1st, 2021 be adopted. Terry, Malcolm, all in favor, carried. Okay, new business. Kelly, take it away.
Right, that goes right to me. That was quick. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is our final finance meeting for this year and by pretty quick. However, after all of our decisions have been made, we have final numbers in our assessment values. We will revisit everything at the end of February to finalize exactly what the tax rate is and the impact of all the decisions made, and then make any further modifications that council so chooses. So today we're talking 100% capital. So we'll put our capital hats on for today. Just so everybody knows, high level, we collect about $5 million in taxes, and we put $620,000 into reserves for capital work. For a municipality our size, I think that's good. So I'm happy about that. I mean, we do have an aggressive capital budget, so we use that money, but it's relatively healthy. And in addition, each year over the 5-year plan, I allocate $450,000 from operating to capital projects as well. So pretty much $1 million a year goes to future capital or current capital, just high level, so everybody has a little understanding of what we put away. And we will be in February looking at a better picture of all of our reserves. I'll have some nice charts once I close everything off and in the new year, just so you can see where we are in terms of money in our bank and our expected future outflows. With that, we'll get right into general government capital. So we'll start by going through what we are planning in the current year, and then we'll review the 5-year plan, and then we'll take a look at the reserves relating to those. So we'll start with the bioheat facility. So right now we've paid a deposit. We've approved this and awarded it. The total project for now is $1.79 million, of which the remaining to be spent in 2022 is $1.569 million, which will be primarily grants, with $183,000 from DOS, which Evan had good news. It originally was $211,000, but they gave us an additional $28,000 to apply. So that's us for us. Everybody's good with this?
Good. Yep.
Okay. The next item is the Shuswap Healing Center. So I do have more detailed, and this is just for everybody's information. So we see where we are at the starting point. So what I did was I got the budget, and this is from 2019, early 2019. And this is what was in the grant application. So this will change as projects do, but this was the preliminary budget for eligible costs, not the land piece, but eligible grant costs for $5.924 million. So that is the approved grant that we have. So this is the breakout. I'm not going to talk about it. You can see it.
Question, if I'd like to, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
The demo and land prep costs, were those not assumed to be on 417, 425, and 433?
So later today in the regular council meeting, yeah, so because we switched location, all that land prep and demo cost has been reallocated to housing land rather than for this project. So that was the budget. So we will be under budget on that piece, however, over probably on others. Yes.
Hey.
Okay, and so we've committed to date pre-construction costs of $253,000, and that's for healthcare guidance and design. So that's for the work of Aveen as well as the architect.
Yeah, basically it's phase one. It's all the soft costs, all the assessments, all the initial design work on behalf of the architect and Dr. Aveen, and survey work. Yeah, a lot of soft costs. That's the first leg, and that's the commitment we've made, is the $253,000 for this year.
And once that 253,000 has been spent and we have a preliminary design, then we can really fine tune our budget moving forward, because then we'll have an idea of what really the costs are and how that's going to shake out. So this will change. And so what we have spent to date is 25,000. So just over 25, a $25,000 deposit towards the pre-construction costs, as well as there's a little bit of money in there for a sign that we've gotten made for the Healing Center, which I think we're pretty good for Greenland. Can we put the sign up now?
For the,
Healing Center. Because we had it ready to go, but we never did put it up.
go ahead, Malcolm.
Yes.
And does anyone see a problem with it? I thought that was kind of, once it was done, I thought it was automatically just going to hit the street. So we're good. Green light.
Okay, Daryl, you're good?
Okay.
Okay, and so how I've allocated the remaining budget for the 5-year financial plan is I've got 2022, $1 million. This is an estimate, clearly, $1 million for planning and design, engineering, and a bunch of whatever it is we get done in the first year. And then construction, I've just split it evenly with 2023, 2024. It's all funded by grants. There's not a tax impact. And this will be a bit of a moving target. Like, it will change next year. But that's what I have for now.
Okay. Jeff, just before, the Healing Center sign is going at 200 Main, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just double checking.
We're gonna put it at the beach.
Yeah, no, I don't know. You know what? It's somewhere on Main Street, because maybe someone's not quite sure yet, but I think we've decided, right?
The new washer.
Yeah. It's the new Healing Center. Okay, go.
Really $1 million for planning and design.
Well, you know what? That could be architect, land demo, and it's just soft costs. Part of contingency. I don't know. It's just $1 million worth of stuff. Maybe we order some. It's just an estimate. I can make that number whatever.
Okay, and 2 years, we're assuming to build the building.
18 months, according to Scott Builders.
Right. So depending on what years it actually straddles, we don't really know yet.
Okay,
So do we have a closer timeline of what this looks like? Are we gonna have dirt turned in 2022? Are we gonna be,
It could, you know, the real 2022 is basically dedicated to design, right? Doing a complete assessment and making sure we hit all the healthcare targets in terms of services and programs that we want. The discussions with all the allied support people. But, you know, 2022 is basically dedicated to getting everything ready. I think the tender and I think the construction will be 2023. We'll see. Can it be fast tracked? Scott Builder says it can. It can. It all gets down to the design work and the consultation and working with the different allied healthcare ones. But for me, I'm thinking 2023, but it's possible. It could be late 2022 that we break ground.
And this is from the proponents RFP. This is their estimated project schedule, which is on our website, which says June of 2022 building permit submission. So there very well could be some dirt moving in 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, we all want to see this project move as fast as possible. And once we start spending more and get a more refined budget, I'll make sure that we get updates on the project and status as well as the dollars. So we always know where we're at.
okay,
Also want to mention, trust me, council, we're not going to spend $1 million on planning. Okay, maybe we change the name.
Yes.
In the RFP, in the Scott Builders bid, it's very specific on what they're spending money on and how it's broken down. So we can use that language to better understand what is being paid as we phase this project. But no, we're not spending $1 million on soft costs. The total, if you go back to the grant, the total, you know, project management, 257,000. I mean, that's a lot of Scott Builders, but the architecture fees, 106,000, the engineering, 121. Those were just broken down for the grant Because in the grant, there's different fields that you must estimate what you're going to provide. And we had two cost estimates provided for the grant. We had two Class Ds. One was submitted by Bayview Homes and one was submitted by Scott Builders. And so we took that estimate. And when we submitted the grant in the required fields, we put a breakdown as you see there. But that's always moving. And we're going to be changing the verbiage, but we know that the total soft cost of this project is not going to exceed 8%. We know that because we've talked to Scott Builders, and in their bid, really break it down further than what you're seeing here. And I can certainly share that with anyone on council.
I believe the total was just over 600,000.
That's right. When you took all in, and 600,000 is roughly 10% minus a few other things on land. But, that bid, of course, is also available to the public. So if anyone wants a real breakdown of what our contractor's building and how it's going to be built, we can present that. That's public.
Thanks. Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, regarding, we're gonna put the sign up, and yes, that's great, and thanks for doing that. That'll generate some discussion in the community, and the key question is, what's it gonna look like, sort of thing. I think we've established the core services that are going to be in it. The key question is now the footprint, what's it gonna look like? There was discussion at the open house that potentially before Christmas, maybe our architect might have conceptuals. Could you give us an idea if that's still possible?
Yeah, that's a question I have tomorrow. So we're going to be meeting with our consulting team tomorrow. And we have a meeting scheduled for 8:30. And that's one of the questions. So I will have more after tomorrow, but I think also, council, I'm going to probably be recommending, I don't know what your thoughts are, but you have an established committee, a community wellness committee. They don't meet anymore, but remember you put the plan together, the wellness plan, and that committee was tasked to meet and deliver that plan. I don't know if council's interested in just changing the name and set up a new terms of reference where we can call it the Shuswap Healing Center, and maybe have a committee with our consultants, a couple of members at large, some healthcare folks and some elected officials. Or we just allow the project team to go ahead as per the RFP and provide council updates. It's up to you. That's not for today's discussion, but I know I've had requests from members of the public on the committee when it comes to public engagement of this new facility. Okay, that we know that there's lots of people in this community that support this and want to be part of it. How do we involve them? Just have them attend a council meeting in camera and have a discussion, or should we formalize a committee and maybe appoint a couple of members at large, a couple of members of council and the project management team to oversee the design and the input of this? Because I think it's important that we, have an open, transparent discussion with the public on the form and character and the design of this building.
I agree. So should we just set that aside and have that meeting at a later date? That committee. Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair. It's just a suggestion, not because, but we have a planning and development committee, and it would probably fit in that box as well as people. Because the zoning people, you have the planners, you have two members at large, you have us, and it's open to the public. That's a set schedule meeting, so you can post it and general public can attend. I don't know if that works or not. Depends on how much time we want to spend on it, how much time staff wants to spend on it.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, bring it to next council meeting for discussion.
All right.
I agree.
Thanks.
Okay, perfect. And my bad for putting planning and design $1 million. I'll change the wording on that. So we're good with the healing center? Okay, so the next one's not very exciting. Server upgrades. So we have a large server in the back room over there, and it's basically will be dying shortly. So basically there's required server replacement upgrades within Municipal Hall. I've got some money for 2022, some more money for 2023 related to the server upgrades. And then in 2024, I've got some other IT stuff for if there's power surges and outages. I talked to our IT people, and those are recommended upgrades. So I've got that on there. I know, not excited, but yes.
through the chair on your line to do with the council chambers audio visual. Is it actually all fixed in here now? Like the TVs keep blacking out and there's a few other things. So is everything in this room fixed and it's gonna stay status quo till 2024 when you spend another little bit of money on it?
Unless you've got input. So the reason this blacks out is because they're talking to each other. So yes, it does block out from, I've sent it to our IT people and I haven't heard much that we can fix on it. The only other thing that we can do was we were talking about the audio in here, and because right now it's very, very clear and you can pick up everything. So whether we can choose to like individually shut this off and then you can hit it. Do this individually so we can pick up less of the paper shuffling around. However, we got a quote for that and it was really expensive. Do you remember?
It was $65,000 and it was basically a whole new system, which is not appropriate.
And we thought, you know what, when you do watch a Zoom meeting, it's very clear. You can hear quite well. And so we thought, you know, we've got the video here, which seems to be working, and our online.
And we've actually reduced a couple of the mics too, because they are so good that they're picking up on everything. So we don't need as many as we had. We had 7 and I think we're down to, I think there's 5 now. So that's another.
Well, it's just a question. I just, you know, because this room's important. So I just want to make sure that we were putting off something that we should be doing today.
I think the bigger problem is folks that are sitting back there, like Sarah, can you hear Jeff right now? Can you hear everything he says? So, and that's Sarah, who is young. You put someone your age back there that just had a birthday and they can't hear. So the problem is from here to there is a bigger problem than the audio in the room on the Zoom meetings, I think. So I think we should look at a solution to that problem. Because I watched Brian in here too, and he's like challenged.
It's definitely these things.
But it was before these things. These things have probably caused more grief, but prior to this, back of the room has always been a problem. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Okay, well, I've got it under computer upgrades, which is our next one, but 20,000 each year for continual computer upgrades. I just made a note to look at audio internally here, and I hear what, because we used to have those microphones and we still have them. We may be able to use them, but there might be feedback issues. So we can look into it. What the old job goes. Okay. Okay, so, and then we're moving on to the charging station. So this was, we've had a level 3 charging station in here for a while, funded via grants. And after talking to Daryl, he recommended that we modify it to a 2 rather than a 3, and he can elaborate on that. And I think I have a picture of where charging stations are right now in Sickle. So hold on.
Yeah, so through the chair, we did a little bit of a deep dive on the level 3 chargers, what's involved. As you know, we have a level 2 outside here now. We could put another level 2 beside it for a nominal amount of money. We're looking at probably $4,000 to $5,000 that could be plumbed right in. The power that feeds that charger comes through the building and then gets, it energizes from the building. If we were to do a level 3 charger, we would need a dedicated line from BC Hydro. So there'd be a design cost from BC Hydro to bring in a dedicated line for that charger, the charger itself, and then all the works that go around it. And the location where it could work would be over by the garbage bins over there. We'd have a standalone station for a level 3. I know there's a grant that's offering up to 50% on maximum of 50,000. So they, in essence, would be throwing us $25,000 to do this charger. If we went level 3 would be 50,000. The works, getting the design and the BC Hydro works done is another 50. And then the work on the ground, we're probably looking at about 130, 150,000. Then you could apply the 25 to knock it down a bit, but it's a big cost for a level 3 charger. A lot of places that are doing it are private places. There is a map there of, there's a whole bunch in Salmon Arm, and as you see, Malqua's got some.
And so, sorry, the orange is level 3,
Level 3 is orange, that's right.
green is the level 2.
The Shell is bringing some in as well, and I think the Best Western is planning on doing some more. They've got one there now, so you know, do we want to lead the charge on this? I don't know. That's your call. It's a big cost. And to recoup any of the money, there's a whole tie-in with the network stuff. So they would not only sell you the charger, they would be pushing hard to get on the network so that people can hit their app and see if there's anybody charging at the moment. And so there's some IT maintenance and all that set up as well that I haven't factored into the cost. So anyway, I figured the level 2, if we wanted to go that way, would be a reasonable option.
Malcolm, Gordon, Terry.
Yeah. Technology changes so fast, so, you know, and level 3 charges 80% charge in 20 minutes sort of thing. Level 2 is an 8-hour charge at 100% kind of thing. So, I mean, it makes sense in a level 2 strategy to have somebody come into our community and stay longer, because roughly it takes, you know, a half hour will be 20 kilometers if you convert it down that way kind of thing with a level 2. So from an economic development point of view for downtown core, level 2 makes sense because they'll be in town longer. From a convenience perspective, you know, people using them, they'll search out, there's apps, there's a couple of different apps. I have one on my phone that tells you what's up on the screen there, tells you where all the chargers are. And people are stopping for level 3s, not 2s. So I don't know if we got to strike up a committee and do an impact study and a feasibility, all that stuff, but costs more for level 3. It'll probably get used more at a level 3. Our permit that we just approved for 534, I think has 4 chargers going in. I think those are going to be level 3s. The Shell's getting a few put in. Best Western has some. It's a supercharger level 3 out in Malaqua. I don't know, maybe through the chair to Kelly, we only got what, 10,000 in the budget right now for it?
Yes, yeah. And we do have a little pool of carbon tax grant money that we get. We get about $2,000 a year. So we've got maybe $12,000 to apply to carbon type things. So
Yeah.
that would cover that, yes.
So I guess my concern is we're chasing technology. And I mean, later on in the budget, we'll be looking at office equipment that for computers, you need $30,000 annually just to keep up to technology sort of thing. I think we're looking at the same thing with chargers. I don't really support the extra cost for level 3, but if we put in a level 2, are we going to be a dinosaur before we're finished putting it in?
Thanks, Malcolm. Go ahead, Gord.
And the district's getting an electric vehicle. I see maybe in a budget here later on too.
Yes, sure. Thank you. I agree with Malcolm. You know, you're chasing technology, and I reached out to Tesla a month ago because they have a program on their website where they're looking for partners, and it would be kind of neat to partner with, you know, if you could partner with Askews and run it along the fence line, or there's no fence there, but from the garbage bins down, Ron would be able to benefit from people stopping and shopping and stuff like that. But I kind of like the idea for level 3 being a private partnership of some sort. But I haven't heard back from Tesla. I can't believe it. It's been a month now. So, right.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, to the chair, I don't know, I think that if we leave this to the private sector, probably be advisable. At the same time, it's all about location and where we put this and how it could be an advantage to the district. I'm okay with $10,000 and leaving it in the budget. I don't see where that's a problem, and maybe we can chase this when, you know, like you say, technology is always changing, but I don't have any problem with leaving the 10 grand in the budget.
Go ahead, Jeff.
let's just be real. We got a lot of stuff going on. $100,000 for a plug-in on the post and 50,000 to hydro. Why don't we consider we're building 2 new buildings? When they're brand new, outfit them so that they have the power service to them to do it at that time. I know it's a little bit in the future, but I don't see anybody stopping out here to plug in except for EV. So.
Yeah, so we're in the EBT had, we have $35,000 in the bank frozen by a board resolution to purchase a capital purchase of a second electric car. Currently, intake closed for Saskatoon for $10,000 on the end of November. It looks like we're getting potentially, well, we're being shortlisted. I was phoned yesterday with some additional questions, so looks promising. We might get $10,000 from Saskatoon. That'll put us in a position to buy a second electric car. So Eagle Valley Transportation has occupancy agreement with the district of Sycamoose for 10 years for 2 vehicles. So our thought is to get rid of the van, as the second vehicle and put the second electric car there. So there are plugs along the wall that are designated for electric vehicles. So my thought is, and I probably have to run this by the city as EBT, but we do have a license of occupancy for 10 years for 2 vehicles. The second vehicle is probably going to end up being an electric car again instead of the van. We can just plug that into the wall plug-in, and an overnight charge would suffice the needs for EBT for the second vehicle there. Just to let staff know that that's probably 2022, EBT will have a second electric vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
Through the chair, I guess the recommendation would be to take this request for a level 3 and convert it to another level 2, so we could get that up on the wall. So we're talking about the transportation network getting another electric vehicle and then possibly outfitting bylaw with an electric vehicle. We probably should have a couple chargers here.
So are we talking for the DOS only? I agree with Terry and Jeff on this. I think that private sector should look at trying to capture some of that market. And are there any grants that a business can chase for that? Maybe we should encourage that in our newsletter. Maybe we should say, hey, moving forward, most businesses or share or get on, talk to Sheila at the chamber, but maybe we should start shouting that out so businesses know that they can put charging stations and capture that audience. Anything else?
We'll leave 10,000 in to put in as many level 2 chargers if we can at the district hall. It sounds like we're going to need a few, and I do have grant money, so that number, maybe we can change it to 12 and get 2 in there.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
And at least we have some type of charging. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to
Buy a green truck.
So you can park anywhere.
I'm just going to hit save on that. And then, okay, so that was that. So now we'll just take a quick perusal of the 5-year plan. So it's less friendly because there's more numbers on it, but we'll just whiz through it. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please shout out. So the biofuel facility we have in 2022 to complete the actual boiler as well as the distribution. Daycare facility, that project is complete 2021, so it's off the books. Healing center, I've got the 1 million and the 2.4 and 2.4 over 2023, 2024. Server upgrades, this is where I've got 50,000, 75,000 and 25,000. So this is being funded from reserve. So if the number's less, less money will be transferred over, but I'm putting some placeholders in. Council chamber audio visual, I've got 30,000 in a few years. We'll see what we can do with mics in here out of our computer budget versus putting some more in audio visual. Computers, we've got 20,000 a year just for continual upgrades of computers and different computer type stuff. And then charging station, I've got 10,000 from 100,000 the year before. Just talked about that. And land housing project. So I have nothing for land. However, we will be talking to Bill, and at a future meeting in February, we'll see what we have to contribute, if anything, to the land housing project. So that has not closed. I just don't have enough information to intelligently put anything in here.
Thanks, Kelly. Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Yeah, my question was regarding the last one, the housing. So I understand it's fluid and you need more information before you put a number to it. But it's not just talking to Bill for Habitat for Humanity. In my opinion, I think we're going to see additional cost as we move forward with our partnership with the Eagle Valley Senior Citizens Housing Society. Because I know that society doesn't have any money, and they're going to probably look to the deeper pockets, if you will, to provide infrastructure to the lot line. That could be in the form of access from, a little short road from Gordon Mackey Lane to push the cul-de-sac a bit further. It could be in the form of a joint agreement with Questview for access. I'm not sure how far along we are in the properties in 417, 425, 433 as far as archaeological goes. I know we've done a field site assessment. I don't know if we have to move into an investigation or not. We know how much money that costs. So I'm just suggesting that it's not just what Bill tells us we might incur. There's going to be some costs. I'm fairly positive from our partnership with the Eagle Valley Senior Citizens Housing Society for infrastructure and potentially more archaeological and potentially access agreements.
And I agree with you 100%, Malcolm. I know there's a meeting on the 13th, and I think Eagle Valley Housing Society is involved, and I will reach out to various players and try to get some more information on, high level, what prior to February, what any requests will be, so we can put a number. We have done artwork over there. We've done about $50,000 worth of artwork. I talked to Daryl. He's not anticipating anything at this point more on that land. But I definitely recognize there will be some costs, but I can't even put a number there. I don't know. So, and because it's moving, there will definitely be some type of number for land for the various projects. But I will reach out and I'll try to get people, push them to give us a request, right? Yes. Do you have any other comments on that, Evan? No.
Terry, then Jeff.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a moving target, and I do agree with what Malcolm has just addressed, and I see Kelly is working towards a common goal. I just look at maybe that number might have to change somewhere in the future, but I think Kelly's on it, and I think she's addressing what your concerns are. So,
Jeff, go ahead.
The chair, I honestly thought that their financing was covering the infrastructure and road and whatever they need on their properties that they controlled. That was the discussion that we had. Daryl, when he laid out the cost for the water and sewer, said, this is on their dime, not on our dime. Like they're getting $0.6 million plus whatever else they need mortgaged. So they have money. Just because they don't have $1 in the bank today doesn't mean anything, but they should be paying for it. Like the taxpayer already donated the land, shouldn't be giving them some more on top of it.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, that's what we say and what happens are two different things. It's for discussion. It will be discussed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you? No.
And that will be coming back. So in February, hopefully we can have a number for that. Okay. So then this is just the only reserve we have for general government. It's really for office and computer equipment. So we contribute $50,000 a year. We just have over 300,000 based on our current 5-year plan. It goes a little down and then it goes a little up. We're pretty much back in the same spot we are in the next 5 years. Just so you know, this is the most positive reserve chart. We start and end at the same place. So that's good. And just to note, and I'm working with Daryl and his team on a more a better asset management plan. So we have really no reserves set up for buildings, right? And in the last, chunk of years, we've acquired more buildings and stuff that require maintenance and replacement. So we really need to look at our allocation of the 620 that we take and see where is, I'm not saying tax more or increase it. It just, is that allocation appropriate based on the assets that we have? But anyways, so that's general government. We're all good?
Everybody's good?
Okay, so now we're going to fire. Okay, and good, Brett's here. So this is what's in the current year budget. So I'm just gonna go to fire over here. Fire, okay, so this was in the budget last year. It's training props for the building. I think it's in progress right now, but we haven't actually spent any of the money. So we're just recommending that we carry it over. Okay. And then we have 650,000, which is it's been in the work in the budget for quite some time to replace engine 5 for an approximate amount of 650. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Brett?
Not really, no, it's just a replacement.
Okay, thanks, Malcolm. Go ahead.
That engine finds a good old girl, eh? It's a
It's done well for us.
good workhorse. It's fairly mobile and there's some way I know for maintenance and stuff, you need an upgrade. But there's some way we can keep that girl and then, if there's a fire season, we can rent that out and make some money.
That is one of the advantages of keeping some of those older trucks, like engine 4, earn us hundreds of thousands of dollars just by responding to wildfires. Engine 5 will be doing the same thing, I would expect. We want to maintain it so that it's still able to respond to those types of situations without taking away from our ability to respond to fire calls within our community. It won't become an excess truck. It will certainly have its availability for wildfires.
Do we know, Brett, how long it takes for, if you keep that truck in the department and then you rent it out, what's your ROI to pay down the new truck that you replaced it with? Like, how quick do you see money coming back for that? Like,
That's kind of a good question. It depends on how often it goes out. We put our availability as far as what we have for wildfire response. So this year we had the structural protection crews out. Our engine didn't go out nearly as much because our crews were out doing structural protection. And that's where we generate the most revenue as far as on a wildfire call. Our structural protection trailer certainly paid for itself this year. And the work that was done this summer was pretty significant. It's quite sizable number this year.
anything?
Yeah, I think it's totally dependent on, like Brett says, that those are going out to wildfires. So it depends on your wildfire season. So unless you got a book of batches.
No, all I'm saying was Brett said it's paid back thousands of dollars already. My question is, how long did take those thousands of dollars to come back to pay down the new engine? So that was kind of my question. Go ahead.
I guess the concern is that, yes, we're looking at expanding the existing fire hall. That's a line item in here. And it's being discussed. Or we're building a new one somewhere down in Capital. There's like $1 billion for the old fire hall. And so, if we keep keeping these things, what's our costs to actually keep them? And the last time we got a new engine to sell it, it's not worth anything. Like it's a $25,000 truck to sell it. So it's not really worth selling, but we should factor in the cost of storing it.
And insurance and maintenance,
Yes.
yeah, there's a cost.
And maintenance.
And then put that against the wildfire, that maybe it's not worth it. That's what I'm saying. If you don't have all the numbers, it's nice to say, okay, we made, what did you make this year wildfires, Brett?
Sorry, Jim.
What was the gross return on wildfires?
This year, I believe 350,000.
Yeah, it was three, and the net was about 250 after our costs.
And the year before?
It was, I actually have a chart that was zero the year before.
But the year
And-
before that, again, there was some wildfires, so.
Yeah. You know what? Just because you're talking about this, I did a lovely chart at the last meeting and it has those exact numbers.
Not just a chart, a lovely chart.
Lovely chart.
Not just a chart. Now I'm buckling under the pressure and I can't, oh, here it is. So recreation, I've got, okay, hold on. Here, fire department. So this third graph here is what we've earned in wildfire. So 64,500 in 2018, just over 4,000 in 2019, nothing in 2020, and 2021 is about 250.
So a 3-year average is about 75,000.
Yeah.
So you have to factor in your average over that time, plus the cost of housing it, maintaining it, insurance, and is it really worth it?
So yes, correct. That's kind of where I was going with all of this, like what's it costing us and what's our return?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, I'm basically reiterating the same thing from my earlier comment and what everyone else is saying. So that's a great fire truck, fire engine. And yeah, how much it costs to store it, insure it, maintain it, as opposed to how much can we earn from it. But I know I've seen them on BC auction, usually municipalities put them out in BC auction. Because the trading value is not 10,000 bucks. Those things go for 3 to 5 to 7. You're lucky if you get 10 grand on the old truck, I think, hey, Brett?
Yeah, selling them is, there's not much market for used fire trucks, most because they can't be certified as a full response capability truck due to age. They're not recognized by the insurance industry. But that doesn't mean that they don't have, some value to other communities. And for example, our engine 4 went into Vernon's Okanagan Lake Indian Band, and it allowed them to gain a little bit of their insurance protection back just because it was a larger volume truck. And we didn't make much on it, but at least it's staying within our area relatively close.
Yeah, that's good. Can it be sold to private sector? Like, could
Yeah.
someone just outside of town here purchase it? So we
They
might,
don't want to pay much for their trucks.
3 grand.
I just mean someone private, like say, just someone over the tracks that has a business, like the industrial park, as an example. I mean, it could be there and ready to go. But the fire department still would be called, but yeah, I guess, I don't know, I'm just tossing it out.
And the last,
Fire protection, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Places that don't have fire protection will buy old trucks just because it's better than having that. Again, they're looking for a deal on it. They're not looking to pay.
You use it, everything is going to fire truck.
Hey,
Yeah, we sold our last one for 3,500.
Yeah.
That's how much we got for it. So,
mhm.
okay, so we're good with that. So there's a couple new items on here. So one's a single axe trailer. Know if you want to speak to
Yeah,
it.
so single axle trailer, most of them move to side by side. We were able to use the district trailer mostly because it was being utilized at that particular time. But I'd like to have one that is a bit smaller rather than the 20-foot trailer that we do have. The reason it's a single axle is if we utilize it for moving fire smart materials that are removed from an area, we can dump for free at the CSRD dump. As soon as we go to double axle, we have to pay for it. So we have the ability to convert it into basically a branch limb and tree removal type situation.
Go ahead, Gordon.
Yes, through the chair, but where do you have enough room over there to store it, or do you store it at Public Works yard? Like, I'm not sure
It would
what,
be in Public Works, yeah, just out the yard.
and Public Works doesn't have a smaller one, eh?
Yeah, I talked to Daryl about it, asked him if they had something that was single axle that would, fit our side by side. indicated that there wasn't anything that they had really in public works that was similar.
Yeah.
Move our side by side and kind of do double duty for ability to move debris.
Okay. And then another note too, have you ever thought about going to Murray and getting a license plate on it? So you can, I mean, he allows like twin anchors for,
Well, yeah, I have an ORV plate on these.
yeah, and you could go from your fire hall to up the mountain if you wanted.
Yeah. With the ORV plate, he gave us a defined area that includes basically the district of Sycamores.
Thanks.
So everybody's good with it? Yep. Okay, and then the next are Hesco Barriers.
So this might make a little more sense after you see Eric's presentation this afternoon. Part of it is a Hesco barrier is basically, think of a Gabion basket with a liner in it. And we've utilized these, we brought them in for previous flooding events. The challenge that we have with trying to get them through ENBC is if we order them or put in an expense authorization request, it's typically 2 or 3 days before we see them, sometimes 4 days, which is great if it's kind of, we're concerned about Riverside Avenue, or, we're trying to get our flood mitigation plan sorted out. But it's not really good for, we need it within the next 4 hours situations, right? And with the amount of damage to Sycamores Creek watershed and Wiseman Creek, which will be a little bit clearer this afternoon, we're concerned about flash flooding and debris flows. And the nice thing about a Hesco barrier is basically the military uses them to protect their large facilities out in the deserts and stuff. And the idea is that basically you can't drive a tank through them. Obviously, that makes for better protection in a debris flow situation compared to water-filled bladders and things like that. I've done some pricing on it. Just got back a quote the other day, and about 25,000 to 30,000 is about the right number as far as for a 750-foot Hesco barrier. And they basically come in on pallets and have the ability to deploy like 2 people to set it up and a piece of equipment to load the dirt in. And they're very quick to set up as well.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. I think that you should leave it in the budget. I think with what's just happened in the province, and although I'm pretty adamant about proactive approach when it comes to flood mitigation, but in this particular case with $30,000, and especially with what's happening at Sycamores Creek right now and the wildfire that took place through there and whatnot, I think that this is a necessary step. So I'm in favor of this.
Jeff.
I guess my concern is 2012, but when the rains and action happened, and then when whatever happened up top let go, you had about 12 minutes to get this thing in place. And I don't care if you own it or not, you're not going to get it there and you're not going to get it filled up. Also, I'm not 100% convinced that 750 feet is going to do a whole heck of a lot. Like, that doesn't cover a lot of dirt. Like when you're talking a debris flow, 750 feet, and that appears that it's only like 3 or 4 feet high. Like that debris flow that came down, I was standing there watching it when that came down at 2 Mile Creek. It was a lot of fill in a very short period of time. I mean, it buried forklifts and vehicles, and it didn't take very long. So I'm just wondering logistically, really 750 feet. And I'm not saying that it's $30,000. Might be nice to have for a little spill over the bank, but if you're considering this for debris flow, I don't think it's going to do a whole heck of a lot, honestly.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Jeff, that, the 2012 debris flow, that's really what it was. We can call it a freshet, we can call it whatever, but we saw the amount of trees and broken up debris in the water around that whole Bay Area, and it is quite significant. That would be probably the equivalent of about a 100-year event, where you get so much into the creek that it creates a large dam. And when that dam breaks, all of that debris and material comes down. Those Hesco barriers would not be much good in that situation at all. We wouldn't have had enough time to set them up. We wouldn't have had enough time to make a difference. There are some thoughts about how to work through Wiseman Creek, but even if we don't use it in those situations and it's more of a slower debris flow, a slower flooding type event, we would have that ability to at least try and abate some of it, give us some tools to work with, rather than waiting the 3 or 4 days for it to show up through EDC. It's nice to have it show up through EDC. It's great to have these pallets of barriers ready to go, but it's when it's a slower type flooding situation, like on Finless Street, we have that ability to have the time set more defensive type barrier for the Sycamores Creek Trailer Park and that area there. There's some challenges with that creek. And again, once Derek does his presentation this afternoon, it might make a little more sense as to why I'm thinking of this is more of a proactive approach. This is fairly recent, which is why you're seeing it today rather than previous.
Through the chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to see what this fellow has to present. I'd say leave it in there. It's not in stone till February, right? We can
Correct.
after.
We'll pencil it in.
Pencil it
You can
in.
always erase it.
Yes. Good. Okay. Anything else?
So we'll just quickly review the 5-year plan for capital. For fire. Okay, so what we have in the future is we have a placeholder in here for fire hall upgrades in 2024. We have no idea what this is going to look like, but Brett's in the process. He's received a bunch of proposals for a fire hall feasibility. So this time next year, we'll have a better idea. Correct? Yeah. Of what we're just putting something in there, knowing that some modifications need to be made. And then we have tender 6 replacement, spread it out over 2025 and 2026. And then what we've already talked about today. Any comments on the 5-year plan?
Yeah, I'll make one. Brett, you did a great job and your whole team did a great job this summer. Thank you so very much. Now that we know though, what's going on around the world, even around our area with climate change and that, is there anything that you see for the future that is not included in this or anything that could come up that we won't be prepared for?
From an emergency preparedness perspective, Shoeshot Emergency Program has been fantastic for us in helping us to prepare for stuff, and they've been really good about, if we have a situation, they come up with some really excellent solutions for us. Longer term, I would say we're in better shape because we've gone through some near flooding events. We've had some situations in the spring where it's been very close to hitting these trigger points where we start setting up Hesco barriers and stuff like that. And we've done training to have tiger dams set up. But the flooding events in the spring are definitely a challenge. I think you saw the resources that are available to us, that can be available to us. Wildfire, or the relationships we build with BC Wildfire are very helpful, so that when we let them know what we're experiencing, they believe us. They're not questioning it at all, and that certainly helps. So we get the resources we need very quickly, and I think that helped this summer quite a bit. Seeing the planes, we're probably not buying big planes or helicopters.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, just on a side note, last night I did a presentation to the fire hall and Brett, and in recognition for our fire department when it come to the response and recognition from BC Wildfire. And so I went to the fire hall and I presented it to Brett and and made it a point that it wasn't just for Brett, it was for all of the members that were fighting the fire within the boundaries of the district of Sycamores, and it was well received.
Okay, and to close, I'll just look at the 5-year reserve chart for the fire equipment. So we started the year with, because this got bumped up by 250 because of that additional amount of income generated. So we start at 900, and with the various larger engine replacements, it goes down, but it's above the red. And this doesn't take into account any future funds that we may receive from wildfire services. This could change completely. And we put about 60,000 a year into fire equipment. And then fire hall building, we transferred money previously that was in the fire boat reserve. A portion of it went into a little nest egg for a future fire hall. So we started out with about 200,000. We put in 20,000 a year. So not a lot, but at least it's something. I mean, clearly we don't have enough money to really do anything at this point, but at least we're starting the process. And I feel like if we get our ducks in a row with the fire hall feasibility and grants, there is definitely more funding available now for fire halls than there ever was previously. Okay.
Okay, any comments? All good? Okay.
Okay, so now we're going into public works equipment. So here we go. Public works equipment. Okay, so first thing is we've got on here replacement of, we have a 72-inch motor. So it's, I think it's 2017, isn't it? Or a mower that gets used quite a bit that our operations manager is recommending that we replace this year because it's a key piece. Any comments on that, Daryl?
Through the chair, this unit does most of the bigger stuff. And it's mobile, so it's all over the place. It's out every day for probably 12 to 16 weeks. And we got some big guys, and it's not very smooth out there. This thing has been through the war, so.
And you figure we can get 5,000 for the old one. So 25 from reserve, 5,000 for the old one.
Go ahead, Gord.
Earl, is this the one Jeff rides all the time? No.
Yes, I just think.
Thanks, Earl.
Okay, we're good with that?
Okay, and the next one is a little different. We had on the books the replacement of a 2009 Dakota, and instead of replacing the Dakota, we were talking about getting an electric car for bylaw planning and office stuff. So, and moving right now, Joe's old truck is being used by bylaw. So shifting that to public works. So they use it more for a Dakota replacement, and then getting a cheaper vehicle that we could use for bylaw planning, any office, with community services manager going out and about, just for liability issues. It's better for us to own the vehicle if staff is moving around a lot. So that's what we talked about.
Go ahead, Jeff.
This is kind of like a deja vu. Did that 2009 Dakota go away when I think we got the truck for Joe? Wasn't that the deal back then? Like there was something that got traded in that was about the same era. So I'm just wondering how many times we're going to get rid of that truck.
Another 3 times, but once a year,
2024, it'll be gone.
Well, I'm positive that truck was the one we were getting rid of to get a new truck for Joe. I'm absolutely positive that 2 years or whatever it was when we bought that new Ford, that Dakota was the one that was sacrificed for that. And here it is again being sacrificed for electric.
I think it was the Ford.
So this time when it goes, I actually want to see it either burnt or disposed of. Come back here again.
Okay, and you know what? I will verify back when we purchased Joe if that was actually the plan. I can go back and look.
It was
Go ahead.
it was the little Ford that we got rid of. Not,
Yeah, we had a little Ford
Yeah.
Ranger.
Okay.
that's what we got rid of. Yeah. Not maybe. That's what we got rid of.
I knew it was a small vehicle and I didn't even know where's this Dakota used at today?
Daryl?
Through the chair, primarily water treatment plant is where you'll see it.
Anyways, that's what we got rid of.
It does water checks as well. The operator does.
Yeah,
Okay.
We thought we'd shift the vehicles, okay?
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
So, not to, but an electric car that's gonna sit here, there's going to be operations manager, public works, it's gonna be a shared vehicle, so will it be at the office only, and you depart from here, then you bring it back?
It's more of an office vehicle, so it won't go out to Public Works. So the bylaw truck, which is Joe's old truck, will go to Public Works and it will stay at Public Works for Public Works to use. And then this vehicle will stay here in our parking lot. It'll be used for bylaw, any site visits that are required, like an office vehicle. Yeah,
Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, what about one of those electric vehicles like Mike has, but more of a utility one? You know, that you can, you know, that the bylaw guy could ride around. It's more of a truck than it is a car. You know, the one that,
Got no doors.
you know, they have signal lights and all that. And there's a manufacturer in Vernon, actually. I was just curious. You know, it might be a little more utility. If it's just a car and you gotta use it for, see, he's gotta pick up signs or something. You know, you can throw them in the back. It's just something to think about.
Our stuff. Yeah, and I agree. And bylaw will be out with it most of the day anyway, so staff, the other folks won't be able to use it. So maybe it's something that you should look at.
and bylaws hours totally change and they work more in the evening and during the day less. And especially at this time of year, bylaws hours are more in the office and less out of the office. So it definitely could see it working.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So through the chair, Gordon, you referred to that company in Vernon that builds those.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should look at that as opposed to Yammer.
Go ahead, Daryl.
Through the chair, I think what we would do would be typical of any vehicle purchase. We'd put an RFP out with what our demands are, what we're looking for, and then, you know, we'll take in whatever proposals come our way and look at them, whether it's a truck or a car. We'll outline what we're looking for and we'll see what we get back.
Hey, anything else? Okay.
That will come back to council. Okay. Next, so this is a new item. It's a flat bottom boat. It's recommended by our operations manager. Please explain, Daryl.
Through the chair, I think I forgot to send you a couple of
Didn't
pictures.
send me a picture of a boat. No,
No?
you did not.
Okay, I didn't.
Sorry.
So we've got an aluminum boat. It's 1980. I think it was here when Will started. The front's caved in. We grab it and we go do swim ropes out on the beaches, or we'll grab it and put it on a lagoon to go get something unstuck with the diffuser. That thing runs around. We throw it in the back of a truck and take it. It's officially leaking badly now. So it's not just a little bit of stuff on the floor. It's quite a bit. Front's kind of caved in. This might be a little more than we need. I put 10 as a number, but I'm thinking if we can get something for, you know, below 10 would be good. But we need the ability to get on the water for different reasons, whether, I mean, we've responded to, you know, animals floating to anything. So we need a boat.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree, because, you know, when you stick it in the lagoon, you want to be able to wash it off before you stick it in the lake. And the flat bottom boats are a lot more stable than like a one boat, right? So, and they maneuver really easily, so.
Daryl, are you utilizing Glenn as well for some of this stuff? Because I think we not in the fall or this past summer make a deal with Glenn Moyer? Is that Glenn's last name? That he was going to assist the district with some of those water issues that we couldn't get to?
Through the chair, I did reach out to Glenn early this year when we had a log jam at the bridge. And he hadn't got his licensing in place at that time. So we had grabbed another taxi to come and do some work for us. We haven't needed Glenn as yet. And
Okay.
I guess as
We should keep him on our radar, though, if he's going to be parked at Main Street Landing, looking after those boats that are illegally parked overnight, then we should maybe utilize him for that as well.
We're good with the boat? Okay, terrific. And then it's new but not new, a used crane lift recommended by the operations manager. So, and
Sorry, Kelly. I think.
Yeah, no,
Back up
I
one.
agree with this.
Oh, okay.
In regards to the next item here, the crane lift and 50,000 K in 3 years. And if we had our own, it's convenient. And so I would like to see this happen. So just add to our help the operations, because there's lots of times we need a crane and we have to bring it in, and I've been supportive of this for some time. Thanks.
Go ahead, Daryl and Jeff.
So through the chair, to go out and get a vehicle like this built for this purpose, we'd be looking at probably about $150,000. The crane itself is probably close to 40. We know this contractor very, very well. He's actually offered us his older crane truck a few years ago. The guys wanted it in the worst way. We've made do, but when they're pulling hydrants, they're doing it by hand. And it really is a WCB accident waiting to happen. We've got a couple of guys, especially Bayview, and some of the longer stems, they've got 15 feet of hydrant stuff coming out, and they're heavy. It would serve as hydrant maintenance for us. It could double as 8-foot garbage replacement if the backhoe was busy. It would pull pumps, which is probably the most critical thing. Our lift station pumps, I'm not going to say they often jam, but it happens. And we've quantified it. I don't know what detail we have on the invoices that were pulled, but I know Cherry Lift Station, through 1 3-month period, we had 11 visits by this truck that came from Kelowna to come. And it's over $1,000 every time to get that pump unjammed. Our guys are there and they could do it. We just don't have the mechanism to do that. So.
Thanks. Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, even when you looked at that other truck, and I sent some information to Joe. I don't know whether you ever saw it, Daryl, but I find that buying this to sit there for a specialized purpose, just the maintenance and the insurance and all the other costs on it are going to be, that's why we have a loader and we have a backhoe. And there are quick attachments for that backhoe that have a winch light on it, which you could get more than your 15 feet in the air. You have an operator on it. So I said, and it was only like, and you guys balked at that price. It was like $24,000 for that. And it's something that is going on to existing equipment. And so to buy another new piece or another used piece of equipment to sit there for a part-time usage, I don't support that. I'd sooner see you buy a quick attachment that goes on the loader or the rubber tired backhoe. And it's equipment we already own. It's hydraulically driven. You can get the height you need out of it. I don't know whether I even still have that information, but I know I sent it all to Joe where he could buy it from, what the cost was. But it's for something that is used to sit and you got maintenance. Like I just don't, for $60,000, I don't see that we're going to get any further ahead on this by owning it.
So I kind of agree with Daryl and the mayor on this. It's like the return is like 3 years. And I'm pretty sure that in the 11 times that the crane truck has been used, the loader's been probably tied up with something else.
And through the chair, we did explore any possibility of lifting the pumps with our existing equipment, and we would be shut down in a heartbeat. You can't have that kind of play with a backhoe, and there's no mechanism to retrieve the pumps and stuff. So this is really the right piece, engineered wise, to get out and pull a pump from a lift station and to me, there's a lot of that kind of work that we could take on with the pump maintenance that we're currently contracting out as well.
Go ahead, Terry.
No, we could look at alternatives, in response to Councillor Malmus, but you take 50,000 K that we spent in the last 3 years, and even though it's a used truck, it's still about convenience. And when you have this equipment, and I know from my own experience when it come to the Public Works yard in Vanderhoof, and they built their infrastructure around, that part of thinking where they always had something in line when something took place. And I know this is a used truck, and maybe you have, maybe other things that could maybe take place of it. But for the cost of this and the fact that 50,000 was spent in the last 3 years and replace it, and we could have this thing for the next 10 years for the convenience factor for the same price. So I think I'd like to see it left in the budget.
I do too. Safety issues as well. Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair. So what year is this truck, Daryl?
It's a 2011 or 12. It was 200,000 kilometers on it.
Right.
We've got the inspection on it. It's winch has been inspected as well as the truck. It would be available until he would hold it for us until May if we wanted to go ahead with this. Make sure there's absolutely no flaws with it. No, I mean, it checked out now and it would at the time is what I was told. So. I'm
Go
not
ahead,
a
Jeff.
fan of buying used equipment. This would kind of be an exception to the rule.
So you have to have the crane inspected every year. So that's a cost. Yeah, that's like $2,500 to get that little thing inspected every year and get an engineer to sign off on it. And we do have a 550 truck that we own, 22 years old. Why can't we buy a crane to put on it?
That 550 is a busy truck with operations. And if we needed to pull a pump today, it's got a sander that's mounted on it and it's busy. It would be a day's work to try to get that thing freed up so that we could mount a crane to do that.
Any other comments?
I
Gordon?
just think we should leave it in the budget. We got time till May, leave it in the budget and if you find something, like I say, it's just the 200,000 has got a little bit, it's a lot of kilometers, but you might find another one that's got less and a better value, but.
It is a diesel, a big diesel.
Coming.
Okay, are we good? Let's leave it in the budget.
Okay, perfect. And we'll go now to the 5-year plan for public works equipment. So the top 4 items are what we've just talked about. And then in 2023, we have the replacement of the 250 Ford, which is a 2011, and the 150 Ford, which is a 2012, and the 2023. And as you know, this moves as well. This is just an estimation. In 2024, we have, what is that? Oh, actually, 2024 is the 2012 Ford, sorry. Next year, we have a Kubota being replaced, the Kubota, as well as the 2011 Ford. And then 2024, we have the 2012 Ford. I don't know what I did on here, but I made it look really funky. 2025 is the 2014 Ford. And then we have the backhoe. Maybe that's what's there, sorry. I'm gonna just exit out of that and then go back in because it. No. Any questions on that?
Did we at one point, and I think maybe last year, the year before during, we talked about maybe looking at the cost to lease as opposed to own and maintenance? We have so many vehicles on the fleet already.
Yeah, through the chair, we did explore that and we talked to a couple different companies. I think one was Driving Force and another one was another local one in BC. And it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot to rent even a half ton was a lot more than what we're spending now.
Not rental, lease.
Yeah, the leases, yeah.
Okay, as long as we've been down that road. Okay,
And then our 5-year reserve, we upped last year how much we put into the public works equipment, just because we weren't putting in very much. So now we're putting in 100,000 a year. We're starting at just over 150, and that is being spent and then built up a little bit. So also a positive looking curve. And then I can change if we take a look in the next year of all of our assets, this is something that maybe we can trim a little bit of the contribution for. It just, in 2021, we didn't spend anything on public works equipment because the reserve was fully depleted. So we upped the amount we were putting there, and we kind of put a pause on spending for a year to help build it up a little bit.
okay, any other comments?
Okay, next is transportation. So that's roads, storm, all that fun stuff. Sorry, this is in the way and I can't see roads. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so we'll start with some storm work. So this is fixing the Kerr culvert. This, I think we had in the budget. We did some planning this year on costs and everything. And so it's recommended to do this year at a cost of 178,000. You know, Daryl, if you wanted to speak to it more, I think I've got some pictures here too.
Yeah, through the chair, we identified Kerr Culvert probably 4 years ago as being problematic with the spring melt. There's been a number of times we've seen the water actually come over the road, and we're continually going back and getting debris out of there at high water. We've had this site looked at. We did spend a little bit of money this year in getting a bit of a design done and an estimate done. The permitting has been moving along. And the estimate to get the job done, that's the state of them now. And we've got some road failure in the middle of Kerr right now. There's a bit of a sinkhole starting. So it's in the budget. I'm hoping we can jump on this after July 22nd is the window. And I'm hoping the road holds out till then, or it'll be an emergency job. So yeah, it's badly in need.
Any comments? Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, I agree with Daryl on this one. That every time we have a spring runoff, it's a really big concern, and it's like, I mean, that small pipe is probably collapsed in the middle, and the other one's not big enough. So yeah, I fully agree on this one for sure.
Okay, oh, go ahead, Malcolm.
Are you upgrading the size?
Yeah, it'd be a different design for it. So the preliminary design now has the 1,000 corrugated steel pipe, 1,000 mil, and an 800. So there's two in there side by side. And what we'd do is we would go in with like an upside down U. It's just an arch, and we put an open span in. And they're recommending an open span because we can leave the river bottom or the creek bottom alone. And it's less invasive, and we can get through the permitting a little quicker. And so I got some good news a couple of days ago by email that DFO is happy with our design. They like what they're seeing, and it would take the volume. It's kind of a nerdy stat, but right now that creek moves at about 3 meters per second when it's high water. That's how it's rushing. If we put that inverted U in place, it'll move the speed of the creek to 2 meters per second. So it slows down the speed. And I mean, that's all favorable stuff when you were getting permitting. So they're happy with that.
So you're increasing the capacity and
By a
lowering
lot.
the speed.
Yeah, by a lot.
Okay, we're all good with that?
Okay, perfect. Next item is a new item, hasn't been in the budget before, but it's recommended by the operations manager for grading and paving to assist with drainage over on Young Street. Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, through the chair, the Young Street has been a problem for drainage and for just water pooling and then degrading the asphalt just since I've been here. So the last 8 years, we've had trouble with that whole storm system. It's kind of a complicated fix in that road needs to be reprofiled. There's not enough of a grade on it. We would need to, what I'm recommending we get done is we pulverize that road. And then with a few storm pickup spots, we would take the drainage from the side. We'll do a reverse crown on that road and keep the middle of the lane, the high point. So it'll take it to the ends, and then we'll carry it to the two corners. So on Finless and then by Main Street Landing. And then we'll do some work on that storm system there to make sure that we can pick up whatever cross falls off the road. But it really needs to be done in its entirety. We can't just do a piece of that. That road really needs to be reprofiled, built up a little higher with the storm worked into it, and then paved.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, so I think before our fire department put the Tiger Dam in there 2-3 years ago, whenever it was, Public Works did a profile. Show the profile from one end of Young, from the bridge end, I guess, from Main Street Landing to Finless and kind of thing, or I think the Trans-Canada Highway, I think. Profile, the length
of the highway, that's correct.
So based on that profile, you're gonna change yellow. You're not just, it's not just like you say, not just repaving, you're reprofiling.
Right.
So when you reprofile, how's that gonna impact the marina, their business from storing boats and launching boats?
Through the chair, which marina are we talking about? Carol's Place?
Yeah, the marina.
The marina. Okay. So the road itself would sit a little bit higher. We would profile that road so that there's a reverse crown. So we carry the water that falls on the road down the road to the ends. So it wouldn't impact her other than to give her a little higher of a barrier once the road is paved. And there wouldn't be any shedding on her side. So
No, not in terms of water, in terms of functionality for, like, they valet boats from storage to the launch. Like you phone them up and say, I'll be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Put my boat, so they grab it. So it's on a forklift very high up, and when they're moving it over, well, they take it off for, put it on a trailer, and they trailer it over. So that won't impact trailering boats from one side of the road to the boat launch on the other.
through the construction, is that what you're?
No, after the completion, your final job.
Oh, I mean, we would tie in so that,
Tapered off.
yeah, everything would be feathered in. It would be, yeah, it would be very drivable.
Just in advance, because there'll be questions asked about that as they see construction and stuff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair, at the economic development, there's the flood mitigation is first on the agenda for the planning and development, 1 o'clock today. And Carol and all the neighbors over there are coming to discuss that flood mitigation. So right now she's complaining about the road and it pooling because we paved the district building lot there that we sold. It's been paved and now all the water seems to be just laying there. So there's more issues than just the road. And that's just from rain events. That's not from flooding. That's just from rain events. So when we look at doing this, yes, we're going to have to look at the whole thing, but it's not until, so I'd like to actually see what happens with this flood mitigation, because we might be potentially looking at doing some portion of that wall. So
The wall won't impact that Young Street Road, though.
it affects the drainage.
Yeah. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, through the chairs. So I guess I'm looking at them a little bit in isolation. I'm just looking at the problem with the road. I realize that the flood mitigation wall is going to have its own challenges. I think if we can get the water to the ends of Young Street, and then how that flood wall ties in along the front of the property or wherever it does, I think those could be separated projects that kind of stand alone.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair. So, yeah, so I think that you want to have a conversation with Carol because of what Malcolm just brought to highlight, but you know, she has a boat launch there. And that's a private boat launch and she would like to keep it. So part of the discussion is on the seawall, like, you know, she's going, so you guys are gonna pay for all. I said, no, we're not gonna pay for anything to do with your private boat launch because we can't aid a private business. So depending on what happens, it might be the more logical sense if the seawall was built and that boat launch was there to have that is your drain point, because that's going to be the low point anyway. As opposed to trying to get it to both ends. Saying you got to look at it for what Malcolm said about her getting her stuff across. I realized that she has a business on both sides of the road, but the road has to be maintained for public use. So, you know, but you can't have her going across it with that thing being a half a meter higher than it is currently. So I think it needs to be addressed, but it needs to be looked at from both sides.
Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, through the chair. I don't disagree with that. I think if we put a placeholder in, knowing that Yonge Street needs to be looked at, I think that's something we can definitely explore and see if
Yeah.
there may be an outfall that I don't know about. It's not on our lightship maps, but there may be an outfall from the old property that we used to own that shoots through there somewhere. It's just, somebody said they knew once that there was one and we never did find it, but if there's a way of maybe reestablishing that comes through Carol's property, we do a little work around that outfall. It might be a good pickup spot in the middle, like you say. So we could look at that.
So for now, should we leave it in the budget and
Yeah.
a little bit more information? Kate?
Okay, next is, we had this in the budget for 2021, it never got done, so we're recommending to carry it over. It's required storm work over at Bayview.
So through the chair, we've done some storm cleaning over the past number of years. A couple of years ago, we encountered some problems getting through. So we've cambered that line. We've found a section that's very deep, very hard to get at, but we need to do some work on it. It's broken, and I think it was probably broken during installation when Bayview was done. So I'd like to have that piece in place so we could get in there and do it in the summer.
Any comments? Go ahead, Gord.
Through the chair, Daryl, does it have anything, or is there any works done at the bottom there where it's jumping is that the area or is it?
Is the area for the first bend up.
Yeah, and you can see the road or the road settling and the infrastructure not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then we are going to whip right over to the South Sycamus Bridge. So I have a little summary of where we are at. So we have spent to date on the project just over 4.3 million. The budget has not changed from 4.6 million in a while. So we have 1.2 million just over in 2022 that I have budgeted to complete, of which I am funding it. The remaining of the $4.5 million grant, which we have 115,000 left. Then we do have a lovely bridge reserve, which I will be depleting to pay for the rest of it. And then I'm allocating whatever remainder from our community works fund, which we have, I believe, just over, I want to say around 600,000 in that reserve right now. We get annual amounts in there. So I'm just leaving it for now as a buffer for the bridge work.
Any comments? Go ahead, Malcolm.
Thank you, Kelly, for that fancy budget work there on the bridge. Much appreciated. What I don't see there is the schedule. That's not your forte, but maybe through the chair to Daryl while we're an update.
Through the chair, we had a meeting yesterday on the bridge. They are scheduled to do concrete again today. So they've done a couple of pours. Today was supposed to be the sleeper slab and then another section, which would leave one more pour. And they're pushing hard. They're telling me Christmas. So to me, I'm thinking New Year's, but I'm getting closer to having that side open.
Thank you.
I saw more than one person there the other day, which looked like almost a crew.
Promising. It will be complete in 2022, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
for sure.
Well, any comments? Okay,
Okay, and then we're going to mosey over to Main Street upgrade project. So this originally we had some in 2022, some in 2023, and I think some in 2024 potentially. But now we've modified it and we've got it all in 2023. So I've broken it out in multiple components. Water line upgrade, which we'll talk about at water, but the part that we're talking about now is this whole piece. So road, curb, storm, sidewalk, street lights, BC Hydro, of course, engineering, which is required with everything. So the road piece totals 1.945 million. And how it's being paid for is a portion of that. I'm allowed to use some road DCCs, so 311. Hydro grant, which is 1/3 of the 650, which is 214, and 1.4 million from our road reserve. So this is going to hit our road reserve quite hard.
go ahead, Malcolm.
$2 million from, where we're going from shoe shop to Paradise.
Paradise to Shuswap.
Wow.
Our grant application with Hydro, isn't that 2022?
Through the chair, yes, it is. We've spoken with BC Hydro on the possibility or probability, in this case, of extending this project over some time, and they have no issues with us
That's all.
bumping that back.
And the reason we've pushed it back is to tie more, once we have a better idea with what's happening with our large projects on Main Street, right? Get all that planning, figure out what's going and tie that with that. And I don't think we'll be ready in 2022.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think it remiss if we don't bury the power. We don't have to put sidewalks in, but from where it's buried at the roundabout, it should be buried from there. Now with the intention that we'll put sidewalks somewhere in Paradise, as opposed to the idea of comes out of the ground, goes up 2 poles, then goes back on it goes down the rest of the street. So just going like when you're digging the trench, and I'm gonna say it again. I don't understand why we gotta support Mascot by burying infrastructure in for them when it's their service. Mascot tell us I don't care. Like they're hanging off the pole. When you lower it in the ground, they should be providing the service that they want to. They have the customers, not us. So I thought somewhere it was against the rules for us to assist a business. Well, I would call that and same as Hydro, like it's retarded that you gotta pay them $200 or $300 or $400,000 in engineering, and then they give you a grant back for 200,000. Like, and it is gonna take them probably 2 years to get back to you with what they think should happen. So you're right, 2023, it might even be 2024 before you're done with them. So,
Anyone else?
I
Okay.
can just quickly say, through the chair, I agree. It would be nice to get at least the underground power part of it out of the way so we could get a little something going next year. The challenge with that is Hydro won't let you put the power underground unless you have a curb and gutter or curb to protect it. So when we looked at this closely, there was a couple things. One, you're probably better off doing the curb and gutter at the same time, or sidewalk if council so wishes to do that. That's the time you do all that work at once, makes more sense. Secondly, if we're going by the properties that are being developed, we're not sure how those will be stubbed out. We don't know if there's going to be level 3 chargers that are going to demand more things for them there or not. I mean, it's just, I'd like to see a detailed design done before we take the next step. And to me, the grant was a piece that you don't want to lose that. So we did make the call, and we've got confirmation that that can be spilled over to the following year.
And if we modify our DCC bylaw, there may be additional funds for like moving the utilities underground that we can use, but right now it's not included, just the curb gutter and streetlight pieces, so.
Okay,
Okay, so then we'll go to our 5-year plan. So this one's a bit mucky. It's got lots of stuff on it. So we'll ignore public works equipment. We've got Kerr Culvert this year, Young Street, Bayview Stormworks, which we've already talked about. Paving, we've just put a placeholder in 2026. Not sure what that will look like yet. It's a ways out. And then we have Riverside Avenue project, and this ties to water line upgrades later on. It is a DCC project and it is essential. And we have that phased over 3 years. After that, we have the Main Street upgrade, which we've now got in 2023. We've got Pine to Sherlock roadworks in 25 and 26, and that also ties to water line upgrades. We have an overlay and widen of White Pines, and that we've got in 2026. We have Stormworks identified for Pogue in 2024 and 2025. We have more stormworks for Finless. I mean, this is the year of stormworks and drainage. Added to 2024 of 220, and that ties to boat launch work as well. And then we've got some work which also ties to boat launch works for Riverside to Capel boat launch area in 2026. And then we've got the bridge. So any comments on this?
go ahead, Jeff.
Stormworks, is there any way you could get that labeled in the flood mitigation? Because I understand there's a lot of money that's gonna become available for flood stuff. That's point number one. Point number two, are we doing some work this year on Capel? I thought that we were doing some work for the sewer line. We had an issue with it on Capel. And at the same time, some time ago, we talked about Capel widening it a bit so that there was a walking path along it, similar to the one that's on Larch.
Through the chair, are you, which side, East Capel or West Capel?
East Capel, because West Capel has a total road rebuild
Right.
that we held off on until we decide about the boat launch and the seawall to put them together there. And that was funded via the houseboat company. All right, so for the development, so
So through the chair, Capel East, we had talked about widening. We've put a painted line down for pedestrians to a point. That's a piece that we're hoping to capture in the active transportation plan that's being done. And that could become a priority depending on which direction you want to go. But that's one we've identified as possibly a quick win.
okay.
That's Capel East. Capel West and Riverside, and I'll just say the whole Riverside, Main Street, Waterline Road, storm, boat launch, sidewalk. There's so many moving parts to it. It was almost the end of Kelly and my friendship. It was the roughest afternoon. What I did is I broke down that huge project that we had from 97 down Capel to Riverside, and then Riverside all the way to Maine with all those components, including the boat launch. And I think we had White Pines storm outfall tied into that as well. I broke it into 3 segments and looking strictly at what we need to do. We need to get fire flow into the downtown because I've got a graph. I didn't get it to Kelly in time to throw up. But if I showed you the map, you'd see that the downtown core, we have insufficient fire flow for that size development area. So we need to reach certain targets for the fire flow, the underwriters chart, and we're falling short. We need to upsize that water line. So it's a priority for us to get water into the downtown. The Capel piece, we broke into one phase, and then Capel to Martin was another phase, then Martin to Main Street. We had one huge project and it's been sitting there for years. We're waiting for a grant. We're waiting for a grant. There's so many moving parts. We're not going to find a grant for all that stuff. So that's kind of the approach we took this year is we would just look at Capel West and look at upgrading that water main. It's an old AC. We need to upsize it anyway. And we'll grab the road because it's on our list of must do anyway. So that would be the piece in isolation that we're looking at for phase one.
Okay. Any other comments?
Okay, and the money piece of the road. So this is the reserve we put the most money in because it's expensive to complete the projects. We put $230,000 a year into this reserve. We have just over 1.6 million in that reserve at the beginning of 2021. And I mean, as you can tell, it quickly goes down primarily because in 2023, the Main Street. Right. But still with all the projects and everything, after that, we still are we're about spending from the reserve what we're putting in after that. So, but you can see how quickly it goes. Okay, good. But once again, it's above the red line. So that's promising. Okay, so now we're moving on to recreation. Okay.
Sorry, can I back?
Yeah.
Capel boat launch,
That's on recreation.
that's coming up.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about the boat launches now, right now. Okay, but before we do that, we will talk about some pathways and trails. So we have had 30,000 in the budget for trails really since I started here. And I think last year was the first year we spent any money, or was it the year before, on a little bit of trail at 2 Mile. So this year, Daryl has assured me that we are going to spend the money. We're planning on redoing the pathway at Beach Park for one. And then as well, I've upped it from 30 to 60, recognizing that I was hearing that we have other pathways that need a little TLC. And in part of our active transportation plan, we are going to be getting some Class D estimates on, I think, 10 different projects, some smaller, some larger. So we will see where that other money can be spent.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, I always try to put my piece in about the connection from Trans-Canada to Cambie South Squat, Sycamore South Squat Bridge. I think that's just the optics of not having that connection after we finish a $6 million or $5 million bridge. Just that little piece missing. That's not captured in this, right?
It will be in the active transportation plan, correct?
But not in the budget.
We can allocate, it depends on how much that costs. We can allocate a portion of this. I don't know the extent of the work that needs to be done.
I'm just thinking if we finish our active transportation plan and an output from that, it's 10 projects identified, and this is one of them from Trans-Canada to Cambie South Squat Bridge. We might have to match some funding if we use the output from the grant that say it's shovel ready and it's a strategic priority from our active transportation plan. It's shovel ready. It's a multi-use path. And typically that's 100% funding, but in case we have to match some funding, we might need something. And I know there's lots of other important things to do, like the flood mitigation on the water walkway and stuff. But I think for under 50 grand, we should connect that piece. It's highway, Trans-Canada Highways and arterial, it segregates our community. That's the only safely controlled crossing for our community to get across the Trans-Canada Highway to nowhere.
Go ahead, Jeff. Thanks, Malcolm.
Through the chair, yeah. So we got funding from MOTI to do the active transportation study on our part, 50,000. And MOTI is doing their own study from the bridge to the Sycamore South Squat Bridge. They were only going to 97, but it was discussed at the meeting to go to that portion. So this stuff is supposed to be done this spring, early, I hope. So I'd rather wait and see what we get back from them on how they figure they're going to tie in that intersection into the road when they come to the 4-lane part of it and what 97 is going to look like. Because you're going to need that information to get there. I agree that walking down the road and through a mud puddle because the sewer doesn't work, and then hiking down the bush, trees, whatever, through the parking lot, and then ditch to get to that traffic light is a bit ridiculous. We're going to get a study done, and we won't. So I think just leave that. And I agree we need to make the connectivity, but that might be able to be done when we do all the other stuff with the roads.
MOTI, I agree. I think we should wait till MOTI comes in. I think we discussed this last time. I know you like your commercial.
Well, waiting for MOTI. That's an oxymoron, but whatever.
And once we have these plans and these Class D estimates, there is actually a lot of money towards pathways and trails. However, we've never had a plan before and we're getting costless. So we definitely have it on our list and we want to make sure we get as much as we can done. Okay. So this I had Main Street Archway. So this is, we've had it in the budget for the last 2 years. Nothing has been spent. After talking to Daryl, at this point, we recommended to remove it. I don't know really what this is going to look like prior to any upgrades there, but we're open for feedback and comments.
Go ahead, Jeff.
The Main Street Archway was first proposed in the OCP. And I think it's actually in that document someplace. And it was proposed to be there on the highway side of Paradise or on this side of Paradise. But it was supposed to be something that would actually catch your eye when you were going through the roundabout. So I would suggest we leave it in there. And, when we're going to do the Main Street upgrades and some of that stuff, we maybe should be considering at that point in time that being a part of the project. So I would suggest we leave it. I'm not saying fund it, but just leave it there so it's got a placeholder and a reminder to future council.
Scott, did you want to comment on this?
I can, maybe just on like in the OCP, it's like the gateway improvements. So this is probably tied into the gateway improvements.
Malcolm?
I like Councillor Malmus' idea. Keep it there as a place marker for future council.
Yeah. Terry?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Momus as well.
Yeah, okay.
Nice. And so what I'll do is I'll put it in the 2023 year when we do the Main Street upgrade, so they all tie. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so this is a new one, Finless Park upgrade. So this is for conversion of Diamond 1 into a pump track. So 20,000 in 2022 and construction of, I think it's 350 in 2023. So this is an initiative of the operations manager. I have some videos and pictures. So take it away, Daryl. What would you like?
Take it away, Daryl.
I have no idea how that got up there. No, just kidding.
Like this, I've got pictures.
No one knows what a pump track is?
I didn't know what it was.
Track is.
Okay, so just kind of set the stage. We were talking about the Owlhead Trail system for the last few years, the mountain bike trail.
Still in there.
And that's progressing. The original plan was to phase it and there was going to be a pump track as part of that. So the talk was there would be a little, I guess it's called a pump track as well. It's just for mountain bikes at the bottom by the parking lot. So we looked closely at that parking lot at Owlhead and didn't seem to think there was sufficient room there for that. Didn't really like the building it out of dirt idea as well. I mean, it would have served as a cool little thing at the bottom of the hill, but Carly came in one day and she showed me a video of what a real pump track looks like. And she used to work for Red Bull, as I think she was a promoter or one of the organizers for some of these big competitions. And she said, if we did a real pump track, you would draw people from everywhere. If you get the right builder, you get on the circuit and they come. And like there's world championship pump track competitions and there's a whole world of stuff out there I didn't know about. So I think I sent a link for a short little clip. It's like a 2-minute video. I think it might be worth watching.
Oh, Evan's listening now. Well, there's a.
Yeah.
Okay, is there no volume
It's on the, no, it's,
on this?
yeah.
Hold on, I'm just gonna. Where's the
See the
volume?
red, see the red, mute.
Okay, thanks. Oh, wow.
So short little video, some of the European competitions, there's just massive crowds to some of these. That one showed really well how it works. Thinking about the mountain bike trail that we're looking to build, or we're in the process of getting set up for Owlhead. The rail trail, the potential with bikes coming to town via the trail, a pump track in the center of town. We could make this a real biking community, a destination for bikers. I look at the footprint it would require on Diamond One. And you know, I know not everything's a totally easy fit. There's probably be elements in the community that might resist giving up a diamond. I would suggest that, you know, we still got 3 diamonds. The average person in town wouldn't know, you know, we went from 4 to 3. It would probably wouldn't even impact them. There might be a bit of scheduling for Jake if he's having tournaments. You might have to have an extra half day for tournaments or whatever. There's only a handful of days we use all 4 diamonds. I see this location as being really great because it's central. We own it. So we're not going to the province for permission. We're not asking, it's not going to referral and getting all the bands come back with AIAs and AOAs and archaeology costs. If we like this, and there's one design, a potential design, it would fit in that footprint. We could do some screening for the neighbors, creative berms and trees if we had to, and just make it a standalone event location with parking, with the ability to have a concession nearby, with bathrooms nearby. It makes a lot of sense. If we wanted to go this direction, we own it, and we'd just get it designed and built. And the quote that I did get was $350 or $375 less any materials that we could include. And so we've got a mountain of millings in our backyard. And if we brought a pug mill in to replenish that pile, add some oil and get that material used, I'm sure we could save tens of thousands on the asphalt itself. So
Thanks, Daryl.
just for your consideration.
Yes, through the chair, Daryl and Jeremy and Carly and I met a while back, and you know that our application for Owlhead Bike Park up the mountain is in the works, but it takes time. And we thought we were further along than our application was, but it wasn't. And it'll probably, you know, it might take another couple of years to get a bike park up on Owlhead going through the province. And this, like Daryl says, this is our own land. I did reach out to Jake. He didn't get back to me. I emailed him. But, you know, we of course want to talk to Jake, and, but it's something that the kids, it's in town. The kids can, it could be up and running next year. You could do it, you know, and it brings in a lot of people, and it's a great location.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Thanks. Could we please go to the aerial photo again?
Yep, most definitely.
So, yeah, back when I was a kid, they used to call that BMX bikes, but it was a dirt track. They got one in Kamloops out MacArthur Island, kind of sort of like that. So in that rectangular area you got shaded, that's where the pump park would be. So what about, all? I hate to say it, but what about that treed area in the southeast corner or the southeast corner of our property there? What about all that treed area? It looks like that rectangle would fit in there and we could maintain 4 diamonds. And that's, I think, our property also. And there's lots of parking along, forget the name of that Sherlock, is that street there? Forget the name of the street there.
Go ahead, Terry.
Behind it.
Oh, sorry. Terry, go ahead. Terry?
Yeah, no, I think Gord kind of answered my thoughts on this. As long as, you know, you have that conversation with Jake, because you know how important that softball has become to the district of Sycamus as well, and all the kids that we've sent off to universities and colleges and smaller with sponsorships and so it would be a huge decision to do this. But I kind of like what Malcolm has to say, and maybe take a look at that particular, but what about the existing track that we have that's in that kind of yellow square area? That's not large enough, Daryl, in order to pull this off. Like we now have that particular area there.
That's a skate park.
Skate park.
It's like a skate park now. We could transition that into this other development. I don't know. Would there be enough room there? It doesn't get used that much, but I don't know this. I think I could see controversy over this when it comes to taking out one of our ball diamonds, but if it's for the benefit of the community, I'd be in favor of it.
I agree. I like the pump park idea. I think the skateboard park is used regularly by kids. I see kids in there all the time, so I don't think I'd get rid of that. But if Jake can see a way to move and organize tournaments around this, you know what? This is an all summer event. It's not just a weekend ball event. So I agree with Daryl. I think it's a brilliant idea. And it's a really, really good location. Go ahead, Jeff.
So I would suggest before you make any decision that you sit down with Jake and talk about what the requirements are for the tournaments that he runs, because when he's having a tournament, all 4 diamonds are being used. One of the complaints that I had from some of the people that I talked about that would come to have a tournament here, because you've got some serious ball players that are looking for a place to play ball at, and our diamonds are small for a lot of like good ball players, like where Jake's daughter's playing now. These diamonds are not like they're only allowed to hit so many home runs, and they have to soft bat them basically because they can drive it out of the park anytime they want based on the size of our diamonds. This thing that you're talking about and what Carly's showing you is an event. That event is going to be the same as having ball tournaments. It's not going to be a every weekend event. It's going to be 2 or 3 times a year. So other than that, it's there for general use, same as the ball diamonds are. So I agree with an earlier comment that you talk to Jake, find out what the absolute requirements are for his tournament so we can keep them. I don't know how much longer Jake's going to stay involved in doing that either. So then who's going to pick up that ball? I mean, we've hired a guy. So is that guy taking up that portion from Jake? But we have some trees. The trees are used for a pathway. There's a walkway there. I think if you look at it, maybe there's a way to incorporate this into this and not take that buffer away from the backyards of some of these places. We also have the curling rink like right beside it. It looks like if you moved it over there, it might not be that rectangular shape, but I think the design would be based on the land area. But I think your first conversation should be with Jake to find out about the ball diamond.
I agree. I don't think it's going to be, I think it'll be used, the pump track will be used for tournaments, but I think that people will be drawn here for practice every weekend as well. Like, I think it's something that people will come to hone their skills. So I think people will be coming in, and I don't know how many there are in the area. It's the first time I've seen one, so. Go ahead, Malcolm.
I think it's a good idea and I support it, but at the same time, I think I'd like to, in my opinion, keep the 4 diamonds. Whether we have what Jake does the, BC tournaments or not, it's just green space. It's a park space actually. And if that's an allotted use that we can do in the park, great. But I think that treat area in the southeast corner, and reline the path to make it both work, or on the other side of the curling rink, like Councillor Mom was suggested, might have to move that caboose, and it looks like that footprint there is big enough. I think we should move forward with the pump park, but also maintain the 4 diamonds. I think we can do both. There's some merchantable timber in there to offset some costs.
Go ahead, Terry.
I think it's a great idea. I really do. I totally support the idea. I'm just a little bit concerned with the removal of one of the diamonds, because I know that those 4 diamonds are pretty active and they're extremely important to Sycamoose as well. But as far as this pump track idea, I think it's a great idea. I've always taken a look at that property on the west side of the curling rink as to what we could do with that somewhere along the line. At one stage, that piece of property right there, or maybe putting in maybe a swimming pool or whatever. But I think this is an opportunity to bring another activity to Sycamoose. I think it's absolutely awesome. So, but I'd be interested to see how the conversation goes with Jake when it comes to removing one of the diamonds. So I think we need to proceed with this. I'm just not sure where we can put it. I'm not sure I'm in favor of removing a ball diamond.
Daryl, and then Shauna.
Yeah, so through the chair, I guess the ask is for next year, we'd like to get 20,000 in the budget so we could do some further design and development. We'd look into all the concerns and see what might be the best spot. Obviously, if we're picking a different place within that park, it'd still work for whoever's designing the track. So we have a little bit of money to go towards picking the best spot that has the least impact. I think it's worth pursuing.
Shauna?
It's just a really quick comment. Historically, Diamond One is our only baseball diamond. It gets utilized as softball, and over the years, the mountains have taken away. But that is actually traditionally and historically the only baseball diamond size-wise. And baseball has not, in the last few years, been happening because of the lack of balance in that. However, it has happened in the past. We take away the diamond, we take away that unless we size up another. It gets utilized for softball as well. I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Shauna, because you're right. The diamond one is the largest out of all of them over there. And so that would be sacrificing that one would be the wrong one to do. You'd be better off to go to the other side and sacrifice diamond 4 if you're going to sacrifice a diamond. And also that 20,000 in the park upgrades, that park has been needing a flattening and some fill in it for 3 to 4 years now. And I think that's what that $20,000 is for, isn't it, Daryl? We haven't done anything to those parks. Like right now, they're so rough and undulated that, playing ball there, you twist an ankle or whatever easy because the surface is not really flat. Yeah.
Terry?
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of leaving the $20,000 in there, and let's pursue this. And it's about the budget. It's about the $20,000, and it's about what another activity could happen in Sycamore. So I'm in favor of the $20,000 to be left in the budget.
I agree. Daryl, maybe just have a snoop around for another location in that area. Go ahead.
And as far as this project goes, for BMX or whatever you're calling it, like Gord said, the one below may be 2 or 3 years away yet. So why could we use the money out of it if we decided to do that bike park up top?
Yep, and they're both funded from recreational reserve, so they're coming from the same sock drawer. So I've got discuss with Jake and determine best location at Finless and only 20,000 in and go from there.
Well, yeah, discuss the diamond. I think that the best look, like, I don't know, does Jake make that decision as to where we should put the pump?
No, they're separate, even though there's an N between them. Discuss with Jake as well as a group, you collectively determine,
I think,
Go ahead, Malcolm.
I think the consensus of the group was yes to the pump park, but save the diamonds.
what is that the consensus? I don't know.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Through the chair, since I didn't say anything, I'll. I really like the idea, and I think that, like the skate park, it could attract like some people just there using it all the time, plus events, which is maybe a little bit, which is great because the ballparks don't necessarily see that. But what Sean has said about Diamond One, it's a great diamond. It's the open entrance near the parking lot. If there's an event in the park, it lets people just drive their classic cars or whatever in for an event. Diamond 4 does have a really long set of grass towards the trees, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone put a ball into the trees there. It's not as great of a location for a visible pump track, but I could see that if a few trees came down, and I know there's a bit of exercise equipment in there too, and the track was designed to fit the space, that there could be 4 diamonds and a track. I don't know, and like compromises aren't that fun. The idea, Daryl.
Yeah, through the chair, just for information, that the square that I superimposed on the map is probably 20% bigger than it needed to be. So the profile wouldn't be quite as big as that square. I've got a 3,000 square meter square. We only need about 2,500, so.
Okay, thanks.
Through the chair, if you go back to that map, please.
Yep.
I have a 4 that's over on Larch Street. There's, if you put it where the ball that, where the home base plates are, you got the least amount of people, residents you're affecting. Because your next door is a school playground. So just, it would be a better fit, though, right out to the edge, Diamond 4. So it would be a better fit over there if we're gonna consider it. So I think it's a good idea. The more things we have in town, the more we attract people, but we have to be cautious of what costs, because we worked hard to get the school to stay open, and now we have young families and kids coming, and there may be people to play ball again at some time in the near future. So, and then we eliminate it.
So, Gord, will you be tasked with talking to Jake since recreation is?
Yeah, I can, I just emailed him. I know he's really busy with milk. So I'll phone him. Daryl and I'll talk to him for sure.
Hey, that sounds good. Okay, and I think it's consent, leave the Diamond One as is and find a new location. Is that what council's saying? Yes, 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 and yes.
Okay, we'll see what can be done.
Okay,
Perfect. So mountain bike park. So this, we've got some money in 2022 and some money in 2025 to develop a bike path at Owl's Head. We're still waiting on approvals, like where it's just got some money in there. If we get the approvals, we can start working. Okay. Okay. Multi-use sports complex. So this is interesting. So we had $622,000 in the budget last year to be funded from primarily grants and some recreational reserves. And this is where the tennis courts are right now. So what Daryl and I talked, and we thought, you know what, let's repave it in 2022, and in a future year. So I've got it in a future year, look for grants for a larger scope of work in like 2026.
go ahead, Daryl.
Through the chair, I think we have applied on grants to have a multi-use sports corner over there. We didn't get them. And year after year, that base, we're getting more calls on the tennis courts. It's just, it's at a point where it pretty much needs to be done.
Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be done pretty soon. I remember 7 years ago. I had a lady come up to me and she had a black eye and she tripped on a root. Came through the court and those roots are still there. I mean, you guys are always picking them out. So it's got to be, we should do something for sure.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair, yeah, you should remove that multi-use sports complex tennis courts, because where the tennis courts are, you're not gonna put a multi-use sports complex there. There's been some talk about incorporating tennis courts with pickleball courts, and we had a conversation with the Sycamoose pickleball group. And basically they said the courts are not the same size, and for expedience of the game they play, they need courts the size that they have with these low fences around the outside edge to keep the ball from going from one group to another. Because if you put them together with no dividing between them, they're always stopping the other game and it's going back and forth. And so there is that group is interested in creating their own pickleball courts on a piece of district property, and it wouldn't cost us anything. They would do the work basically and create it. And I think we should actually have a conversation with them and entertain it. They're talking about over at Finless Park by where the playground area is there. Whether it's feasible or not, I don't know. There are two different games on two different size courts, so.
Harry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks to the chair. Anyway, I think that I'd like to see this left in the budget. I think it's important, and I think it should be handed to Justin in order to figure it out.
I agree. And was there not some conversation with the healing center that perhaps there was a healing center that put the pickleball court in their parking in their lot and in their green space, and they were using, so maybe that's something that we could look at as well as a location and a community value. Yep, go ahead.
And Justin has sat down with the pickleball people and he's had that conversation, and I think this is something that relates to them and something that, you know, we will require in the future. So I'm not sure what kind of complex we can put together, but I think that we have to get them out there and look for grant funding and maybe see if we can make this happen.
Malcolm,
Yes, thank you. Leave it in the budget.
leave it. Yep.
Okay, pave the tennis courts this year. And then we'll determine what else is happening in future years. Okay, so Finless and waterfront upgrade. So we've got some money in there for planning and design and phase completion of project over the next 3 years.
Jason, not Justin.
Daryl, did you want to comment on it? I'll just
Sure.
hop over to the 5-year capital plan now.
Through the chair, this is a bit of a moving target as well. Permitting and everything else. We've been pretty conservative in rolling this out and phasing it over such a long time. I'm hopeful it could be quicker. I'm hopeful we can have discussions early in the year when the budget gets finalized and we have a little bit more we could bring forward with solid costs moving on stuff. But for next year, at a minimum, I'd like to have that boat launch designed and ready to go. And we're trying to coordinate that with MOTI when they come through with the bridge as well. So it's a bit of a balance, but a small piece in here to make sure that we're moving ahead with the permitting.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, I think this is very important, and I think we need to give Public Works as much money as they need for at least the detailed planning and design for sure. Because I think the previous operations manager's plan was to try transfer as much cost to MOTI as possible because they're impacting our schedule. And so if we defer our schedule, that gives us less leverage to try and get MOTI to the table to cover some of our costs. So if we defer this, we're accepting more responsibility for all the costs. Basically, the quicker we get a detailed design, the quicker Daryl can sit down with MOTI and say, this is how you're impacting our project. What are you bringing to the table?
Any other comments?
So did you want me to put more money in 2022 Daryl, like, will you spend it? Are you waiting on approval?
I think through the chair, I think we're gonna have this discussion again before the budget gets finalized. I'll have a better idea by then. We're definitely want to have something in hand, and Counselor's exactly right. We want to show them what it needs to look like. We don't want to turn it over and say, build us a boat launch. So yeah, it's an important piece to get that in.
So leave and potentially modify in Feb. So we're good with that. It's in there, and once we have more information, it may be changed. Okay, so the 5-year plan, and this is where the Capel boat launch, I believe, is on here too. So we have the pathways this year. Then we have, it's under Finless and Park upgrades. That's the new one. That's the pump track. So that's the 20,000 plus the 350 of where it will be located there to be determined. The bike park at Owl's Head, we have 120 this year and 120 in 2025. The tennis courts, we're going to pave this year. And then I've got something out in the future of 2026. I'll leave it for now, or I can remove it. But if I'm not hearing, I mean, the budget where it doesn't affect taxes by any means. So we'll see what that looks like. Beach park upgrades, that project will be complete in 2021. I've got something in 2026 in case we want to do some further upgrades, maybe to the splash park or something. Washroom facilities, in our DCC bylaw, we have identified several washrooms which need to be completed, one at Tecumseh and one at Old Town. So I've got one in 2024 for 34,000 and one at Old Town in 2026 for 120,000. Campground, I don't have anything in here at this point because I don't have any further information indicating that there'll be any costs incurred. If that changes between now and February, I will put some money in there. Finless and waterfront front upgrade. So this is what we've talked about. We've spent some good money this year on the demo and permitting. So we've got 20,000 and then we've got another 200 and 600 in 2024 and 2025. So it's a large project. But we do have a special little reserve for that boat launch that has around 250,000 in it. I know it's not enough to pay for it all, but it helps. And then we have the Capel Street boat launch upgrade. So we've got work in 2025 and 2026, which also ties to the roadworks and stormworks we have there. And talking to Daryl, this is done in a later year because we didn't want Finless and boat launch upturned as well as Capel boat launch at the same time. So we did one over a few years and another one over a few years. So comments, questions?
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Well, a couple ones, just quickly, but the washroom facilities at the Tecumseh, is that the 2 mile that we identified earlier?
The little park, the beach.
That sliver piece there. And maybe that also that one lot we have in 2 mile or two. Okay, so Capel boat launch. I don't know why we're not putting money in next year's budget because we're gonna have MOTI going to tender late fall of 2022. So 2022 would be the year that we do something to fix Capel up because we're gonna have pressure on Finlayson and you know, there's private boat launches, the marina, Papa's, I think, whatever along the stretch there in Riverside, but for public access to water, and we have Old Town Bay and Finlayson and Mervin's hard because it can't really turn around or anywhere. So why aren't we focusing on a secondary boat launch to offset the impact on Finlayson and trying to transfer some of those costs to MOTI? I think we should be accelerating Capel and trying to approach MOTI to offset those costs because they're impacting what's happening in Finlayson. We should be taking advantage of, not advantage of that, but make MOTI accountable for how they're impacting our community.
Jeff, go ahead.
So we had the old Twin Anchor site, that road, what is that, Mark? That we have wet up, which is where waterways used to be. So So we have other boat launches that we could do that are just as tight as Capel. The issue with Capel is that when you rebuild Capel, to stop the silting in, you actually have to pull it back. And you need to put the seawall in to actually hold everything together. So the neighbor to the south, Don, don't know his last, I can't remember his last name. Don Murray's actually offered to contribute because he would put the seawall in on his side. And so we would just do the other side. That's why today at 1 o'clock in the planning meeting, talking about what's going to happen out here, so we can get an actual cost per foot to put this in. Which I'm hoping that our staff can find some grant funding. There should be some available, I would think, after all the flooding, that we could come up with some funding in conjunction with some monies that these people are going to spend anyway to build a boat launch or build a seawall, get their test section done. And then, yes, I agree, Capel should be the next place that we go to because that boat launch is horrible because it's got to drop off at the end of it, but it needs to be totally rebuilt. So.
Gord, go ahead.
You know, I know it's gonna get really ugly when we lose Finless.
Yeah.
And I mean, Capella can't handle the traffic and it's in deplorable shape as it is.
Yeah.
Nobody uses Martin Street hardly at all because it's even worse. And then Wet Up Street's always plugged because you can't, even the C-store parks or somebody's parking there. It's just, we have to think about this and if we can transfer some costs, even if they put in temporary pads, you can put pads in, and pull them out the next year when we do the revamp. But we should see if we can transfer some of the costs to highways somehow on those, all three boat launches. It's not that expensive to put just pads in and pull them, you know, you can still reuse them at another time. And if we could get them to pony ups for some of it, because when we lose Finlayson, these other boat launches, we're gonna hear nothing but complaints.
I agree. And so do we put money into this, Kelly, and hope that we can get some from MOTI or do we need to put some money into this?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to put money, shift it forward some years. I don't know, Daryl, do you have any comments on it functionally?
Well, through the chair, I'm agreeing with Councillor Bushell saying, and even Jeff for that matter, good point on the rebuild. That's really what needs to be done. It's got to be, what is it, 13% slope going into the water. We're way off that. We've been adding pads. Public Works runs up there and tries to level them and we go further and further and further out. We've been patching it and just kind of band-aiding it. My first run through on the 5-year was to try to prioritize Capel. When we get into the boat launch stuff and the arc, because you're on the lake, the costs are hard to quantify and the timelines are nearly impossible. I would love to get that one knocked off quickly, but it made a lot more sense to me at the time, just staggering those two projects and keeping them far apart because we don't want both boat launches being constructed in the same year. We just don't need that kind of traffic, not knowing where to go. So I did move it back quite a ways. Can we approach MOTI and see if they can do something for us in the interim? Absolutely.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I think that putting some money in the budget today, because as you all, from any time you work the water, you got to start the application process. And right now that's a year. How long did it take us to get the application through to take out the old wharf at Finlayson? It was almost a year.
It's been, over a year.
Yeah.
Over a year.
So you pretty have to start the plan today. You don't have to actually get it done. So you should put some money in the budget to actually start that process, because regardless of what you'd like to do, if you'd like to put pads down next year or the year after, whatever, if you're going to go in there, because Capel, Martin, and Wet Up all need removal of stuff that's been added in there that should have never been put there, because it's causing further problems upstream. So, or downstream, I mean. So you need to get some money in the budget to actually make the application to do the work. You can always get the work window put in whatever year you want, because they're gonna tell you fishery says you can only do it during this time period anyway. But you at least need to put some money in there so you can at least get the application process started.
Thanks, Jeff. Terry?
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. I think we have to put some money in the budget in order to move forward with this. At the same time, we've had that conversation with MOTI, and I think Jennifer Fraser was, really receptive in order to maybe giving us some support when it came to funding, when it came to developing out the boat launch at Capel. So what needs to be done, we need to put some money in the budget in order to get it moving forward. One other thing too, prior to our conversations, I think I made mention when we're talking around the recreation summary that I talked about Justin, but it was Jason that I was meaning to mention, and not Justin. We got Justin and Jason now. So anyway, get clarity on that. But as far as Capel is concerned, I think we got to put some money in the budget.
Malcolm?
Thank you, your worship. Thank you through the chair. I think in our planning process for our budget, I think this might be the biggest thing that we're overlooking and not actually planning. No disrespect to the staff, but not planning properly for a resort town and people come to launch their boats here. It's paramount, and we got a $225 million project that's impacting our most used boat launch in town, and we should be going to them and saying, here's our design for Capel, here's our design for Finless. You're knocking out Finless, and we have to accelerate our plan for Capel. I kind of disagree with Daryl there a bit that we shouldn't have them both under construction at the same time. On paper, it looked like they're both under construction, but we're not going to touch Finlayson until they're well into construction for the Bruin Bridge. So in fact, we should probably move things over to focus on Capel more than Finlayson even because of the impact the Bruin Bridge is going to have in Finlayson and put us in a better position. Whatever we get out of Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure will be a direct result of how much pressure we put on them. Our mayor is right that yes, Jennifer Stites is receptive to having on the agenda for our monthly discussions, Capel boat launch. But it's just a general discussion that, they'll help us in the whatever. They're not committing any funds to it right now. We have to apply way more pressure than what we are. No disrespect to staff, and to benefit and make them accountable for the impacts to our community, for our resources, our resort town. And I think we have to put money in, way more money in Capel, and then chase MOTI to offset that money we put in there. Because they're impacting our main tourist attraction. We're a resort community because we're on the water. People need to get on the water, and we don't want them to go out in Old Town Bay because we want them to spend money in town and use a boat launch in town. I mean, Old Town Bay is in town, but you know what I mean.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, we need to, I think we're overlooking this and we're going to pay for it when the impact comes, like Councillor Bushel said. We need to focus more on this.
Okay, so the first step is put in an application to do the works. And how much money is that? It's usually required for that, Daryl. Is it 5 or 10, 15,000?
For permitting?
Yeah. Because you have to send in a drawing and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah, I guess it depends how far we want to get into it, because they may want to come and do a bunch of arc work right off the top. So I think when I bumped it back, we've got a pretty big number there for prepping, designing, arc work, all that. I think that's 100,000.
Yeah, I think if we just shift this 100 and this 360 to 2022 and 2023, that will help. And then Daryl can get started, and then we can know what we're doing. So we have some ammo with MOTI.
Okay, does everybody agree?
Yeah, I agree. But your first step is the length of time it takes to get the permit. So if you don't start that process
Now?
now,
No.
you'll be 2026 before you're actually building it.
Perhaps there could be some assistance from MOTI with that, though, because they are taking our launch out, so maybe they can fast track that for us. That might be an option for you to have a look at. Malcolm, go ahead.
Exactly what Councillor Anderson said. Thank you through the chair. MOTI has a standing agreement with an archaeological firm. We got the permits in place. And it's I think from what I'm told from Jennifer, it's kind of like a blanket permit, the same thing that our district has with the ARC branch. So yeah, if it's going to take ARC work, so be it. If it's going to require a permit, let's get on it. Let's not make those things obstacles. Let's deal with them.
Let's move.
Okay, so council all agrees we're moving all that forward, and Capel's on the radar.
Yes, it's a priority.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So that's it for the 5-year recreation plan. And then how does that affect our recreational reserves? Well, they're going down. They're quite healthy. We put $100,000 a year in them, recognizing we're a recreation community and we have a lot of boat launches and stuff like that, which require money to replace and to maintain. So we started $1 million, we put in $100,000 a year, and as you can tell, by 2024, we are pretty flat. But once again, above the red line and still getting work done, that's important for the community. So, okay, good. So the next is water and sewer. I know, we still have water and sewer, sorry. Okay. Do you want to take a 5-minute break or just want to plow through?
Let's plow through and then take a break after we're done.
Okay. Water and sewer. Okay, we'll start with water. We've got 20, this is somewhat new. We have the lift station.
Sorry, Ellie, can I just interrupt? Do you guys want to take a break?
I'm just gonna go to the washroom. You guys go ahead.
We're missing lunch, cabbage rolls.
Okay,
Okay, 25,000 for planning of the Boutwell lift station replacement 2022 and 2023, the actual lift station replacement. Oh, this is sewer, not water. Yeah. Oh no, sorry. I'm at water now. So forget what I just said. We're gonna go to generators at Bayview, CPR Hill. We've got CPR Hill, I think, locked and loaded, and this is just mainly for Bayview generators. Correct, Daryl?
Yeah, through the chair, we wouldn't be looking to other generator. The one on wheels here on the trailer, that one would be brought over to CPR to pump the reservoir full, or Bayview if needed. So that those buildings need a little bit of modification. CPR is essentially done. We just have to put an automatic transfer switch in or manual transfer switch in the building. So it just requires a BC Hydro disconnect connect request. That's been submitted. I would expect in the next few weeks, CPR will be off. It'll be done. And then Bayview it's a tricky project. It'll have to be in a kiosk outside, but it gives us the ability to grab that trailer, bring it up to the Bayview booster station, plug it in and get water up to the reservoir if we ever have a prolonged outage. So it's just further use of our trailer.
okay. Any comments? Okay,
Okay, next, this is part of the roadworks for the Riverside Avenue Main Street to Capel main upsizing. It's a DCC project and we have it phased over 3 years to complete. Okay, we're good. Main Street water line upsizing. So that's the 250,000. I've just moved it from 2022 to 2023. We're all good with that. Side of the roadworks. CPR booster station retrofit and a pump replacement. Those are both identified works from Daryl this year that he says are required.
Yeah, so through the chair, I just talked about how we could hook up to that trailer, take it to CPR booster station and get those pumps to fill the reservoir. And that would work. Currently, we have 2 small pumps in there and they deliver between 5 and 6 liters per second, which is terrible flow. So we fill a very small reservoir at the top. If we ever needed to hook up a fire truck and put out one of the villas buildings or a couple of them, we would be out of water flow within between 30 and 45 minutes. So it doesn't give us a lot of fire protection up there. So what I'm proposing is when they come through and do the bridge on the highway, we've already got their commitment to bring three-phase power across to that side of Old Spall. So for next year, I would ask that we put 20,000 aside so we can design and plan for an upgrade of the power to that booster station. And then the following year, we would upsize the pumps so we could fill that reservoir quicker.
Any comments? Nope. Okay, thanks, Drew.
And then apparently pump 202 at the high lift needs to be replaced. It's very old.
I should have got a picture. Yeah, it looks like R2D2. It's a little curved pump. It's about 3 feet high. It's 1989 or 1990 pump. It's been returned, rethreaded. It's been epoxied. It's been rehabbed as many times as it can. There's not much left to it. It picked up a bit of a shake early in the year, so we shimmed it. It's on its way out. So it's a pump that needs to go.
Is that new price?
Sorry?
Is that replacement new?
Yes.
Okay, so that's water. That was nice and quick. I'll just go over the 5-year water plan. And oh, here it is. So this here is the large Riverside Avenue main upsizing, the Main Street in 2023, the CPR booster here also in 2023. We're doing a little planning this year. Another water main loop, Silver Sands to Finless was identified for 2023.
Sorry to jump through the chair. That loop is MOTI will be doing that for us. The 50,000 for next year is just for upsizing that pipe, and that's a pretty generous amount. It wouldn't be that much.
Thank you.
And then we're doing some Pine to Sherlock main upsizing, which is identified as part of our DCC projects, which also ties to roads. And then we have R2D2 replacement right here in 2022. So that's water. And something a little different this year is our, so many things open, is our water reserve. It is, so we did a one-time transfer, if you recall, of 750,000 to our water reserve. So we started it off with a healthy $1 million, and it is far above the red line. It's still downward, but it's looking better. And each year in the budget, I'm putting as much as I possibly can. Right now it's about 200, but I'm hopeful that over the next 5 years, that number will increase. Once I finalize the budget, I'll let you know what that is. But we are growing the water reserve fund, because I know there are other water lines that need to be replaced. So that's a little nice. Sewer. Boutwell lift station. Okay, so this is planning in 2022 with the actual completion, construction in 2023. I think that's about 650,000. Comments on Boutwell? Daryl, did you have any comments on Boutwell?
Yeah, through the chair, I've got a tech memo if anybody wants to see it. It's done by Urban Systems. They look specifically at Boutwell in terms of what we're generating or what the neighborhood's generating and sending to the plant. Currently, we're at about 91% capacity at Boutwell. So there's not a lot of things that need to add into the neighborhood to make that a real problem. And yeah, it's identified as one that we have to look at quite soon, especially with the Best Western looking to do some expansion and things. There'll be more flow going to Boutwell. So.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair, Daryl, when we talked about doing one of these lift stations someplace, I'm not sure where it was, but did we talk about trenching and fitting in a horizontal pipe to give it more capacity? Is that what we're doing here? Or are we putting in a whole new lift?
Yeah, through the chair, that's on the table. For next year, I think we're asking for some money to study and come up with a plan. That's something we've talked about with the engineer as well.
Okay.
Added capacity with the lateral pipe going in. So we'll look at everything. If there's a cheaper way of doing it, we'll find it.
Okay,
Hey.
the comments? Okay,
Okay, next is the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So this is the remaining chunk of the grant from way long ago. I think 2014 is when we originally got this for 1.85 million. So this here, this 540 is above and beyond the 1.85. So we've spent that, and this is further amounts that need to be spent in order to complete the wastewater treatment plant. Okay,
good.
good. And this is something, it's a lift station radio replacement. It's required. I don't know if you wanted to speak on what that is.
Through the chair, we've got a communication system through our SCADA system. We've got lift stations all around town. We've got repeater sites and reservoirs. Everything talks to itself or to each other and sends it to us. The radios can't be changed out a little bit at a time. They have to be done all at once if you're changing brands. And so the current radios we have are old, like very old, 25 years, 30 years old. And they're at the bottom of the scale in terms of good radios. So if you do an assessment, you have pretty poor quality, very old radios. It's been problematic. I've seen more radio problems in the last couple of years than I've seen for 6 years before that. So we've identified this as being a project we'd like to go in and change the radios at the lift stations and the booster stations and the water treatment plant and our plant and the reservoirs. And they're a few $1,000 each, and then there's some labor to do that. And I've also got on here the PLCs, so the logic control systems in the lift stations. We've got a handful of those that need to be changed out. And again, they're really old. So I think for that amount of money, we could go in and do a really good communication system upgrade for our stuff around town.
Any comments? Daryl, does this correct the power outage problems as well? Don't you have issues with some of the radios or units when the power goes out?
We have, yeah, we've seen that as well. We've had repeaters that go down, have to be manually reset. We've got,
This will correct it?
this should help. We get a better quality radio, it should help.
We're all good.
Okay, and then moving on to pump replacements, which we have in there every year for if pumps go down. I know this year we just replaced a pump.
Yeah, sorry, Kelly.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, this year we replaced 4 pumps
Okay,
for that amount. So we did one on Moore, did one at Parksville, and we did 2 Silver Sands lift station pumps. Over the last, let's call it 8 years, when I got here, the average pump age for our lift stations was about 18 years. And once we get these ones in, we'll be at, I think, 10.7 as average age for our pumps. So we're in much better shape. We'll be able to pare that money down. And I think it was 23,000 a year is what we're going to need going forward.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So through the chair, can you just go back to that $60,000?
Yep.
So through the chair, and that $60,000 there for the 4 that you did. Did that 60,000 cover that $1,000 trip for the guy with his truck? Just a question.
No.
So that's on top of that. Because aren't you using that to lift those pumps out to replace them?
He lifts them out for us and replaces them. Yeah.
So
For pumps.
that's not included in that.
This price is strictly for the pumps themselves. Yeah.
okay,
Any other comments? Okay, we're good.
okay, and then we'll just move to the 5-year water sewer plan. So here's the Boutwell lift station planning and then completion, the remaining of the water treatment plant upgrades. What's that one? Lift station upgrades. I'm not sure which lift stations, but
Yeah, in following years, we've got 4 lift stations. We've identified the 4 old ones, and this would be more to do with the cabinets and the the controllers within, not the PLCs or the radios, but the other stuff, the switches and things. So there's 4 of those. To rebuild those, they'd be 75,000 each. So we've staggered that over 2 years.
Yeah, 2 upgrades per year. Then we have the radio upgrades this year, pump replacements, which will now be decreasing moving forward because our average age has now decreased, so there'll be less replacements required. So heavier on the first 2 years, but then our sewer should hopefully taper down. And we need that because our sewer reserve, which used to be more healthy, has a bit more of a downward trend. So we started 1 million and then in 2022, 2023, it goes right down. But then it levels off and then we'll be going back up. The main reason is the additional cost for the wastewater treatment upgrade. I think there was an additional like 750,000 that is coming out of reserves. And then Boutwell Lift Station, that's 650 coming out of reserves. Those are large chunks that just suck the money out, but we still are putting about 180 a year into the reserves. So that's good. And this is why we want to modify the DCC project list so that clearly there will be some other future upgrades as a result of capacity. And we don't want to just be relying on the reserves. We want a little extra buffer there.
Okay,
Okay, and so that's it for capital. We're all done. I know that was a long bout. We did it. And then I just have one item that just came to me yesterday and it's finance related. So I just thought I'd put it on the agenda and share it with everybody. They emailed Shuswap Community Foundation, emailed me their allocation of their grant list. And I've attached their cover letter as well as who they've allocated out the grants to. Sorry, it's just, I don't know why it's taking so long. And so it's really tiny, but it's more for your information that you can read. And if you've got any questions, I actually don't have the answer right now, but I'm happy to forward the questions to Shuswap Community Foundation, or maybe Ryan can speak to it as he was part of the committee making the decisions. I think $64,000 worth of $60,000 worth of requests. I think they've allocated 34,000.
Ryan, did you want to comment?
It's always a pleasure to meet with that group. One of my preferred duties of council is just knowing where to community, what organizations to support in that. And they all, there's a lot of information involved from the organizations and a good bit of deliberation goes into it. I can't read them on my device, but we all felt good about them. It was easy to come to a consensus.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I have had to commend Councillor Aries on his support when it comes to the community foundation and how much he's appreciated when it comes to the board. So I happen to be quite connected to one of the board members, so I got some input on that. So good on you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
I think the adjudication team's doing a great job.
Let's know the results.
Go ahead, Gordon.
Yeah, I just noticed the Eagle Valley Snowmobile Club didn't get anything allocated towards it. What was the main reason?
Well, if you read the terms of reference, which of course you have for the group, it was hard to rationalize supplying them the funds for that grant. And it was a very substantial ask. Also, the other ones were really easy to fit within the guidelines for that grant program. And it was quite easy to come to consensus on it.
Thank you.
Great. We're good.
And with that, I have nothing further.
Okay. That's it. That's all. We're moving into in camera.
Nope, there's no in
Oh,
camera.
we don't have an in camera? Oh, this is right. Okay, recommendation that the Select Finance Committee meeting for December 8th, 2021 be adjourned at 11:50. Jeff?
Yeah.
Ryan, all in favor? Oh, my God. And
That was pretty
out before lunch. Nice.
Why did I think there's a camera today? Oh, maybe.
Always having camera.
Because we always have camera later.
They had a tough go this year.
I wish.
Updated in camera.
That's where I put it.
Haven't looked at their application. I'll ask her for it.
Sorry, didn't know you talked to me. Sorry, what? I probably will too.
Well, I think they've supported it quite well on the past. I haven't asked.
I don't think.
We have.
I don't care.
That's what they want.
But short term
You know
solution.
what it is.
She's got all kinds of money available. Yes. I'll prove that. Where did you say? Seniors? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Lunch, you going to the seniors for lunch? I wish I could.
Like.
I got much shit to do.
That's not a bad idea. Go to seniors for lunch.
So
I gotta clean up my mess here because I might not be back for the planning meeting.
Anyway, the board,
There's actually flood.
Oh, yeah.
Sharon, give them quite a.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We'll see you later. Love this.
She's really pleased, with Kathy and Judy and Sharon.
I would like to.
Take one.